The worst part isn't the chains. It's the damp. It crawls into your bones like it paid rent. And somewhere above you, Rome is scheduling your death the way you'd schedule a haircut. Meanwhile, you're down here in the dark, oddly calm, like you already know the ending and you're fine with it. Hey guys, tonight we begin with Paul's final days in a Roman dungeon, the man Rome couldn't silence. We're going to feel the cold stone, hear the drip of water in the dark, and sit with that strange calm while the executioner gets closer. We're going to be right there as words are scraped out by lamplight in a place that smells like a nightmare. So before you get comfortable, take a moment, like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see who's joining us from around the world. Now dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. Congratulations, you've just woken up in Rome. The good news, you're still breathing. The bad news, you're doing it in a hole. You open your eyes and realize open is generous. It's mostly squinting into darkness that tastes like rust. The air is cold, wet, and old, like someone bottled basement mildew and poured it straight into your mouth. You try to shift your shoulder, and the chain reminds you you're not the main character in your own life right now. Metal scrapes stone. The sound is loud down here. Everything is loud down here. Your bed is the floor, not the floor in a cute minimalist way. The floor in a this used to be somebody's puddle way. Your blanket is whatever fabric you still own, which is basically a sad rag that smells like sweat, smoke, and resignation. Somewhere nearby, a rat is having a full personal journey. It pauses, sniffs, and decides you're not worth the drama tonight. Honestly, rude. You sit up as much as the ceiling allows, which is not much. Your head nearly kisses stone. The walls sweat. Not metaphorically. They're wet to the touch, slick like the inside of a clay jar. Every breath pulls in that sour cocktail, stale urine, damp rock, old blood, and the unmistakable scent of human beings kept somewhere they shouldn't be. Whoever designed this place looked at basic dignity and said, "No, thank you." Then the other sensation hits you, the weight on your wrist. The chain doesn't just hold you, it introduces you, because you're attached to a guard. He's nearby, half asleep, wrapped in a cloak that looks warm enough to count as a small house. He shifts, armor creaking softly, and you hear the tiny clink of your own captivity responding. He smells like oil, leather, and last night's onions. You smell like a man who's been stored. The two of you are now roommates, whether either of you emotionally consented or not. Above you, you can hear the city, not clearly, just hints, footsteps, a cartwheel, a shout that echoes down the stone like a rumor. Rome is enormous and busy and bright, and you're underground like a forgotten jar of olives. Sometimes water drips from somewhere unseen. It lands on stone with a steady little plink, like time itself has taken up tapping just to annoy you. And yet, this is the shocking part. You're not panicking. Your stomach is empty, your back aches, and you can't stand up straight. But inside you, there's this steady, stubborn quiet. You're not pretending the sword isn't coming. Everyone knows the routine. Trials, delays, paperwork, a few official frowns, and then the neat ending Rome likes, especially for problems that won't stop talking. You can almost imagine some bored clerk scratching your name onto a wax tablet like, "Yes, yes, the loud one. Put him on Tuesday." Someone above moves something heavy, a hatch maybe, a bar sliding. Light spills down in a thin, dusty, blade, and for a second you can see the room properly. It's worse. The stone is pitted. The corners are dark with grime that has layers. There's old straw mashed into the floor, like someone once tried to make this livable and then immediately gave up. You blink against the light and the guard grunts, annoyed at being reminded the world exists. A voice comes down from above, short, sharp, Roman. A message, maybe, a name, a schedule. The guard answers in that tired way men do when their job is standing near misery. The light narrows again, and you're back in the damp. You flex your fingers, slow, because the chain rubs your skin raw if you move too fast. Your wrist is sore. Your joints complain like old hinges. But your face stays calm, and it almost irritates you. You're supposed to be falling apart. This is the part where people beg. Instead, you're thinking about ink. Not ink exactly. You don't have a cute desk setup down here. There's no quill holder. No tidy little stack of parchment. Any writing happens the way everything happens in this place. By someone paying for it, smuggling it, bargaining for it, risking it. A visitor, if you're lucky. A guard with a soft spot, if you're unbelievably lucky. A scrap of material, a stub of charcoal. A lamp that smokes and spits and makes your eyes water. You listen for footsteps again, because visits are the only thing that breaks the sameness. Most days, nobody comes. Most friends don't love the dungeon vibe. It's not exactly an easy commute. It's not safe. It's not clean. Also, it smells like death's laundry hamper. So the days stretch and winter presses in, and you find yourself wanting something embarrassingly simple. A cloak, not a symbol, not a metaphor. Just a warm piece of cloth, because you are cold all the time. You curl your toes and realize your feet are damp. The floor is always damp. You shift, and your knee finds a patch of grit that might be sand or might be something else. You decide it's sand. You absolutely decide it's sand. In a Roman dungeon, imagination is a form of self-care. The guard coughs, and you smell the sour edge of cheap wine on his breath. He mutters to himself, bored, and you wonder how many men he's been chained to, how many last nights he's listened to. You picture him going home after his shift, stepping into sunlight, complaining about his back, eating bread like a normal person. And you, down here, are still you, still thinking, still forming sentences in your head like they're stepping stones across a river. Because that's what you do, even now, especially now. You don't have a pulpit. You've got a wall that sweats. You don't have a crowd. You've got one guard who wishes you would stop talking. You don't have freedom. You've got a chain and a schedule hanging over you like a blade. And still, your mind keeps reaching for people who aren't here. Friends in far cities, small house gatherings, tired. Believers with calloused hands and big questions. You can almost see them when you close your eyes. A lamplit room, bread being broken, someone holding a child on a hip, trying to listen over the baby's fussing. Someone at the edge of the room, nervous, checking the door. Ordinary people. And you're down here, in the wet stone belly of Rome, building them a message out of whatever scraps you can get. A scuff of sandals overhead. A pause. Then the hatch sound again. Wood, iron, effort. And you feel that small electric shift in the air. Someone might be coming. You straighten as much as the ceiling lets you. Your chain clinks. The guard sits up, irritated, rubbing his face like he's been dragged out of a dream. Light drips down again, thin and dusty, and you blink into it. Your eyes sting, your throat is dry, your stomach growls, offended by the concept of waiting. And still, that piece stays put. Not loud, not dramatic, just steady like a hand on your back, because tonight you're going to live this whole road. The man you were before the dungeon, the fury, the certainty, the hard footsteps, the long miles and the worse hospitality, the riots, the courts, the shipwrecks, the bruises that never fully healed. And then we're coming back here, back to this hole, where the end is close enough to hear in the scrape of a guard's sandals. The hatch opens wider. Light spills down. A shadow leans over the edge, and you lift your chin, chained in the dark, ready to speak like the walls can't stop you. The shadow above the hatch lingers like it's deciding whether you're worth the effort. A voice drops down, bored and official. Saul. Your name hits the stone and bounces around the room. The guard at your side shifts, chain clinking, like your life is a set of keys someone keeps misplacing. But before you can even lift your chin, the whole dungeon feeling, wet rock, rat breath, winter in your bones, slides sideways. Because before you were this calm man in a hole, you were the kind of man people cross the street to avoid. Not because you were big, not because you had a knife, because you had certainty. You wake up in Jerusalem to the sound of someone else's life already happening. A donkey brays like it's filing a formal complaint with the universe. Somewhere nearby, a baby cries with the relentless confidence of someone who has never paid rent. Sand grinds underfoot outside, and voices bounce off stone walls in quick, sharp bursts. The air is already warm, already dusty, already full of smoke from last night's cooking fires. It smells like ash, sweat, and yesterday's fish trying to pretend it's still respectable. You sit up and your sleeping mat sighs. Not in a cozy way, in a please replace me way. Your body knows the routine. Wash, dress, pray, repeat. You splash water over your hands and face, and it's cold enough to make you hiss. The basin water smells faintly metallic, like it's been borrowed from a horse trough. You wipe your mouth, blink the sleep out of your eyes, and the day clicks into place. You're Saul of Tarsus. You're not here to vibe. You're here to obey. You wrap the leather straps around your arm, tight and practiced. The phylacteries sit against your skin, small boxes with scripture inside, and the leather bites just enough to keep you aware of yourself. It's a wearable reminder. You belong to God, not to comfort. The strap presses into your bicep as you wind it down, and it leaves shallow. Grooves like your devotion has fingerprints. Your fingers smell like leather and yesterday's oil. You murmur prayers under your breath, not soft, not dreamy, focused. You tie the last loop and flex your hand once, feeling the tension, feeling the pull. It's like putting on a uniform, like buckling armor, only this armor doesn't clank, it judges. Outside Jerusalem is already a living organism. The streets are narrow, packed, loud. You step out and immediately someone brushes your shoulder, and you have to resist the urge to spin around and deliver a lecture on personal space. Nobody has personal space. Privacy is a myth. Everyone is always in everyone else's business, including God's. A man pushes past carrying baskets of figs, and one drops, splits open, and gets stepped on 3 times before it even understands what happened. You smell bread baking somewhere, barley bread, the kind that could survive a flood. There's also the smell of animals penned too close to people, and people living too close to animals. It's a communal fragrance, a shared experience. A boy runs by with a chicken tucked under his arm like a stolen football. The chicken looks furious. You keep walking, eyes forward, jaw set. You're young, but you carry yourself like a man who's already decided how the world should be. You make your way toward study, toward the circle of men who speak the words that shape everything. Gamaliel's name carries weight here. Even hearing it makes people straighten their backs. When you step into the study space, the air changes. It smells like parchment, lamp soot, and old wool cloaks that have absorbed a decade of earnest sweating. The floor is hard beneath your sandals, and dust gathers in the corners like it's also trying to learn. Men sit close, knees almost touching, because space is expensive and humility is mandatory. Someone clears his throat, and you feel it in your teeth. Gamaliel speaks, calm and sharp, and you hang on every phrase like it's food. You're the student who actually wants homework. You're the student who would ask for extra homework. You're the student who terrifies the other students because you look like you might report them for chewing too casually. Your mind loves rules. Rules are clean. Rules are safe. Rules keep the world from dissolving into chaos. You've watched empires crush people. You've watched soldiers swagger past holy places with their ugly confidence and their polished helmets. You've seen coins stamped with foreign faces, hands out for taxes, boots on sacred stones. Your people survive by clinging to what is theirs: law, covenant, identity. So when someone comes along saying the crucified Jesus is the Messiah, when they start gathering followers and talking like the world has been rearranged, something in you flares hot. Not annoyance, alarm, because you've seen what happens when people get weird ideas. Rome doesn't do dialogue. Rome does nails and crosses and public warnings. You're not trying to be cruel. You're trying to prevent catastrophe. At least, that's what it feels like inside your chest. By midday, the city is louder. You step out again, and the sun hits you like a hand to the face. Heat shimmers off stone. The street smells like crushed herbs, sour wine, and whatever is rotting in a drain that doesn't deserve to be called a drain. Someone's selling onions. Someone's selling doves. Someone's selling a goat that is screaming as if it's been personally insulted by commerce. You pass a cluster of people talking too fast, too urgently. Their eyes keep flicking around, and that alone is enough to make you slow down. Whispers. That sect again. The Nazarenes. They're meeting in homes, breaking bread, saying dangerous things with calm faces. You can handle disagreement. What you can't handle is a wildfire. Hi. It starts with a scene that looks, from a distance, like any other crowd. You hear it before you see it. Voices piled on voices, the rough edge of anger, the sharp snap of accusation. People are pressing toward a spot near the council area, faces tight, hands gesturing like they're throwing invisible stones already. You move closer, not hesitating. Crowds part when you push through. Not because you're famous, because your expression says you're not here for entertainment. In the middle of it stands Stephen. He looks wrong for this moment. Too steady, too clear-eyed. A man shouts, spittle flying. Another shakes his fist so hard his sleeve slips back. The words coming out are heavy ones: blasphemy, betrayal, poison. Stephen speaks back, and his voice is strong enough to make the hair on your arms lift. He talks like he's not afraid of them. He talks like he's already somewhere else. It makes your stomach twist. Things move fast in Jerusalem when people are convinced they're right. One moment it's shouting. The next it's momentum. They drag him out, a surge of bodies pushing, pulling, feet scraping stone, elbows jabbing ribs. Dust kicks up in a thick cloud, and it coats your tongue immediately. You follow, heart pounding, not with fear but with purpose. Outside the city, the ground is rough and uneven, scattered with rocks, thorny plants and trash that nobody wants near their home. The air smells like sun-baked dirt and sweat that's turning sour. Men start shrugging off their outer garments because throwing stones is work. And apparently even righteous fury has a dress code. Someone looks around, needing a place to put the coats, and their eyes land on you. You, reliable, respectable, approving. They pile the garments at your feet, wool and linen, sun-warmed, smelling like bodies and old meals. One cloak has a greasy stain near the collar. Another smells faintly of sheep. You gather them into your arms like you're being entrusted with something holy. In a way, you think you are. The first stone hits with a sound that is not dramatic. It's dull, wet. Stephen flinches, just once, and then his face shifts into something you can't stand to look at too long. Not because it's grotesque, though it becomes that soon enough, but because it's peaceful. Another stone, another. Men grunt with effort, their faces contort, teeth bare. Arms rise and fall, like chopping wood. You stand there holding coats, and your hands tighten around the fabric. You approve. You don't chant. You don't throw. You don't have to. Your approval sits in your chest like a stamp pressed hard into wax. Stephen's knees buckle. Dust sticks to sweat on his forehead. His breathing turns ragged. Someone's aim is wild, and a stone skitters close to your sandals. You don't move. You're watching. You're making sure this finishes. When he finally collapses, it's not noble. It's human. A body does what bodies do when they're broken. The air feels thicker afterward, like the world is holding its breath. And you're still holding everyone's coats like a faithful attendant. On the walk back, nobody talks the way you might expect. There's no parade, no applause, just heavy breathing, the shuffle of sandals, and a strange, simmering satisfaction that crawls under your skin. Like you've helped remove an infection. Your hands smell like wool, dust, and other men's sweat. The fabric in your arms is warm from their bodies, and that warmth feels like proof of belonging. Somewhere behind you, someone laughs too loudly, the kind of laugh men do when they need to convince themselves they did the right thing. The city gates loom ahead, and Jerusalem welcomes you back with its usual stench of life. Animals, cooking smoke, sewage pretending it's not sewage. You step into the noise, and it doesn't wash the moment away, it sharpens it. Because now you know what you're capable of approving. And it doesn't frighten you, it steadies you. Soon, people start using your name like it's a weather report. Saul is coming. Saul is angry. Saul is involved. You become a kind of moving pressure in the city, the way a storm makes the air feel electric before the rain hits. You don't skulk around in alleys like a cartoon villain. You walk openly. You study. You pray. You show up at the right places. You speak to the right men. You carry yourself with the quiet authority of someone who thinks God is on his side. And you begin to help. That's what it feels like, helping. You learn where they meet. It's not always the same house. They're not stupid. They know they're unpopular, and unpopular ideas don't survive by advertising. But Jerusalem is small, and people talk. Servants overhear. Neighbors notice extra sandals outside a door. A cousin mentions a gathering. A friend of a friend lets something slip. You start showing up, not with a mob, with purpose. The first door you approach is plain wood, scraped and sun-faded. The kind of door that has heard too many arguments and not enough laughter. You lift your hand and pound once, hard. The sound cracks through the quiet inside. Footsteps, a pause. The door opens just a sliver, and an eye appears, wide, startled. You smell lentils, cheap oil, the warm, crowded scent of too many people in a too small room. You push the door wider. Inside, faces turn toward you like flowers turning away from light. Someone clutches a child tighter. Someone's hand goes to their mouth. Someone else stands too quickly, knocking a bowl. The bowl hits the floor and clay shards scatter. Nobody moves to clean it up. You step in anyway, dust on your sandals, law in your spine. Your voice is controlled, but it carries. You ask names. You ask who taught them. You ask what they've been saying. They stare at you like you're a wolf wearing a human face. In a way, you are. When you start dragging people out, it's not cinematic. It's awkward. It's arms twisting. It's sandals scraping. It's someone's shoulder slamming into a door frame. It's a woman crying out. Not like a performer, but like someone whose life is being ripped open. It's a husband shouting, and then going quiet when someone hits him. It's a child screaming because strangers have taken their mother and nobody explains anything. You don't enjoy the screaming. You also don't stop, because you're convinced the screaming is temporary. The danger is eternal. You tell yourself you're saving them from worse. Your hands smell like other people's fear, like sweat and tears and the sour edge of panic. Your sleeves get grabbed. Your cloak gets tugged. You keep moving. You deliver them to the authorities with the same brisk efficiency you'd bring to a religious duty. Some of them plead. Some of them glare. Some of them go limp, like their bodies have decided checking out early is the only available comfort. You watch it all with a jaw clenched so tight your teeth ache. By evening, your feet throb. Jerusalem's stones are unforgiving. They don't care how righteous your mission is. They grind your heels the same way they grind everyone's. You sit down to eat, and the meal is simple. Bread that fights back, olives that taste like regret, maybe a bit of fish if someone had money and optimism. The bread scrapes your throat on the way down. The oil coats your fingers. You wipe your hands on your tunic and immediately feel the grit sticking. You drink water that's faintly warm and tastes like the jar it came from. Across the room, someone mentions another gathering, another cluster of believers, another pocket of infection. Your exhaustion doesn't soften you, it steels you. Your certainty is the kind that gets stronger when challenged, like a muscle. You start going to the high priest, not because you need permission to be angry, but because official anger works better. The temple complex is always busy, always humming. Priests move like men carrying invisible weight. The smell of sacrifices lingers. Blood, smoke, hot fat, wet animal hide. It's not a smell you ever fully get used to. It clings to hair and clothing and memory. You walk through with your head high, careful where your sandals step. The stone is stained in places that never quite fade. You speak with men who have power, and you feel the machinery of authority begin to turn. You're not a lone zealot shouting at clouds. You're becoming an instrument. When the high priest listens to you, when his eyes narrow and his mouth tightens, you feel a grim satisfaction settle into your ribs. Finally, adults are taking this seriously. You request letters, official ones, documents with ink and seal, the ancient version of a warrant, paper that says you are allowed to do what you already believe is necessary. You can almost feel the weight of those letters before they're even written. And the more you do this, the more the atmosphere changes around you. People speak more quietly when you enter a space. A conversation stops mid-sentence. Someone turns their body just slightly, creating distance without making it obvious. You notice. You like it. Not because you crave popularity, but because fear means people understand consequences. Consequences keep communities alive. You pass through the market and catch snippets of talk about the way, about Jesus, about people claiming visions and healings and forgiveness like it's something you can just hand out. Forgiveness. Like it's cheap. Like it doesn't require a whole system of sacrifice and law and purity. like it doesn't require control. That last thought makes you frown. Control isn't a dirty word to you. Control is how your people survive Rome. At home, you lay out your clothing carefully, your outer garment, your sandals, your head covering. Everything has its place, because if you can't keep your own life in order, what are you even doing policing anyone else? You wash again, because Jerusalem is filthy and righteousness still has to eat. Water runs over your hands, bringing dust into the basin. You scrub at your nails until they're clean enough to satisfy your conscience. Your arm still bears the faint marks from the leather straps earlier. You run a thumb over the grooves and feel something like pride. You're devoted, you're disciplined, you're useful. You think God must look at you and nod. The next day brings more whispers, not just in Jerusalem now, outside, in the surrounding towns, even farther. People are fleeing. The believers aren't disappearing, they're spreading, like smoke. And that's when the word reaches you. Damascus. Damascus, up north. A major city with trade and synagogues and enough people to hide in. A place where ideas can grow legs and run. You hear the name and feel your stomach tighten. Not fear, urgency. If it takes root there, it won't be a local problem anymore. It'll be something bigger, something harder to contain. You can almost picture it. Strangers gathering in houses, speaking the name of Jesus with bright eyes, telling each other they don't need the old boundaries the way you do. Your jaw clenches. No, not on your watch. You go back to the high priest, and this time you don't just speak with concern. You speak with fire. You stand in the thick temple air, where smoke clings to everything, and you ask for what you need: authority, permission. Letters addressed to the synagogues in Damascus, so that if you find any belonging to this way, you can bring them bound to Jerusalem. Bound. It's a word that sits comfortably in your mouth. It sounds like order. When you receive the letters, they're not dramatic objects, just rolled parchment, inked lines, an official seal. But in your hands, they feel like a sword. You tuck them carefully into your clothing, close to your body, as if to keep them warm, as if to keep them loyal. Preparations begin in the practical, unglamorous way all dangerous plans begin. You don't ride out in a shining procession. You gather supplies. You check your sandals, because roads chew through leather like an animal with a grudge. You pack food that won't rot immediately. Dried fruit, bread that could survive being used as a weapon, maybe some salted fish if you hate yourself. You secure money, because even righteous missions require lodging, bribes, and the occasional paid silence. You find companions, men who share your alarm, men whose faces harden at the mention of heresy, the kind of men who don't mind grabbing someone by the arm and dragging them into the street. You look at them and feel reassured. If you have to do ugly work, it helps when other people are willing to get their hands dirty too. The morning you leave, Jerusalem looks normal. That's what's unsettling. The sun rises. Merchants shout. Animals stink. Priests move through routines. Children run, laughing, barefoot and unbothered by the weight of adult terror. You step through the streets with your small group, and people glance at you and look away. Someone mutters a greeting. Someone else pretends not to see. You feel important. Not in a vain way, in a chosen way. At the edge of the city, you pause for half a breath and look back at the skyline, the temple gleaming in the morning light, the walls, the stacked houses, the narrow streets that have formed you. This is where you belong. This is what you're defending. You adjust the roll of parchment against your chest, feeling it through the fabric. You check that your cloak sits right over your shoulders. You set your jaw. and you start walking. The road north is dusty and long, and it wastes no time reminding you that your feet are not holy. The sun climbs higher, and heat starts pressing down like a hand on the back of your neck. Dust rises with every step, coats your sandals, gets between your toes, turns your sweat into a gritty paste. The landscape opens up, dry hills, scrubby plants, the occasional stubborn tree that looks like it survived out of spite. Insects buzz, birds circle. Somewhere far off, a dog barks like it's angry at the concept of distance. Your companions talk in bursts, complaints about the heat, about the road, about how bread this hard should count as construction material. You don't laugh much. Your mind keeps returning to Damascus, to houses, to gatherings, to voices saying the wrong name with the wrong kind of joy. You imagine walking into a synagogue there, letter in hand, the seal intact, and watching faces shift as they realize what you are. You can almost taste their fear. It's a bitter taste. It feels necessary. At night, you stop where travelers stop. There's no charming inn with clean sheets and a hot bath waiting for you. There's a patch of ground. There's a low wall. There's a place where people have decided, collectively, that this is where you don't get murdered as often. You eat by fading light, fingers greasy from oil, mouth dry from dust. The bread cracks and sheds crumbs into your lap like it's shedding its own skin. Someone passes a skin of water. It tastes faintly of leather and old sun. You lie down on the ground, cloak pulled over you, and stare at the stars. They're bright out here, painfully bright, like the sky is showing off. Your shoulders ache, your legs throb, but your heart feels steady. You're doing God's work. You're protecting your people. You're stopping something dangerous before it can spread. And as you drift towards sleep on hard earth, the letters against your chest feel like a promise. Tomorrow, the road continues. Tomorrow, Damascus gets closer. Tomorrow, you'll finish what you started outside Jerusalem, holding coats in the dust while a man died. You roll onto your side, grit pressing into your cheek, and you tighten your grip on your cloak. Somewhere in the darkness, a companion snores like a dying animal. You don't mind. Your mind is already on the road again. Because the next time the light hits you, it won't be lamplight in a dungeon. It'll be the brutal midday sun on the road to Damascus. And you'll be marching straight into the moment that breaks you open. The sun is higher now, and it has stopped being pleasant morning warmth and become giant flaming judgment eye. You've been walking for hours, and the road has developed a personal vendetta against your feet. Every step kicks up dust that sticks to your sweaty ankles like it's trying to become part of you. The grit gets between your toes, under the straps of your sandals, and into that one spot on your heel that already feels raw. Your mouth tastes like yesterday's bread and old leather waterskin. Your companions are doing that travel thing where everyone pretends they're fine, but the silence is full of swallowed complaints. Someone coughs and spits, and the spit hits the ground with a sad little dark dot that disappears instantly into dust. Ahead, the road stretches toward Damascus, north, always north, through scrubland that looks like it was designed by someone who hates comfort. You feel the parchment tucked close to your body when you move. Letters, authority, permission, your little rolled-up proof that you are right. It's early in the 1st century, and you're on the road to Damascus with violence on your mind. You think you're here to end a movement. You don't know you're about to get ended first and rebuilt. The heat shimmers so hard off the ground that the horizon looks like it's melting. A fly lands on your cheek, takes one step, and you can feel its tiny feet like an insult. You swat it away, and it comes back immediately. because flies have the confidence of men who have never faced consequences. Someone behind you mutters something about stopping soon. You ignore it. You've ignored a lot of things lately. You keep your eyes forward, and you let the rhythm of walking do what it always does. Turn your mind into a marching drumbeat. Damascus, synagogues, names, houses, bound hands, quieted voices. You imagine the moment you enter and the room chills. You imagine reading the letters aloud and watching people's faces reorganize themselves into fear. You tell yourself it's mercy, a clean cut now instead of a wildfire later. The sky above you is empty and bright, the kind of blue that offers no comfort at all. No clouds, no shade, just the sun, unblinking. Your cloak sticks to your back. Sweat runs down your ribs and collects at your belt like it's trying to pool. Your companion's sandals scrape. A waterskin sloshes. A pack strap squeaks with every step, and the sound starts to feel like it's inside your skull. Damascus is closer now. You can smell it before you see it. Not the city itself yet, just the change in the land, a faint hint of green, a whisper of water somewhere. The air shifts, barely, like the world is taking a small breath. You lift your chin. You're almost there. That's when the light hits you. Not the sun got brighter for a second. Not a cloud moved. Light. A blast of it, sudden and violent, like the sky split open and dumped its contents directly onto your face. It's so bright your eyes don't even have time to hurt properly. Your body reacts before your mind does. You jerk, you flinch, you throw up an arm like that's going to stop anything, and your feet tangle on the uneven ground. You go down hard. Dust slams into your mouth. Your knee hits a stone, sharp and immediate, and the pain shoots up your leg like a spark. Your palms scrape, skin peeling against grit. Somewhere nearby, someone yells your name. Or maybe they're yelling anything. The sound is muffled under the roar in your ears because your whole head feels full of light. You blink. You blink again. The world should come back. It doesn't. It's just brightness, white and searing, like staring into a kiln. Your eyes water instantly, but it doesn't help. It's too much. You're on the ground, blinking like an idiot, and your heart is beating so hard it feels like it's trying to escape your ribs. A voice cuts through it. Not a shout. Not a crowd voice. A voice that lands directly on you, like a hand on your chest, pinning you down. Saul. Saul. Your name spoken twice, and it doesn't sound like a greeting. It sounds like an accusation that's already proven. Your throat goes dry in an instant. You swallow dust. Your mouth tastes like dirt and fear. You manage to get one word out, and it comes out smaller than you want it to. Who are you? The voice answers with a calm that makes your stomach turn. I am Jesus. The name hits you like a physical blow, not the vague idea of him, not rumor, not the irritating little stories people whisper in houses. Jesus, alive enough to speak, present enough to address you by name. Your mind tries to reject it so fast it almost makes you nauseated. This is impossible. This is wrong. This is not how the world works. The voice continues, and it feels like the light itself is talking. You are persecuting me. You try to breathe. Your lungs feel tight, like they've forgotten how. The dust in your mouth turns into paste. You want to say something sharp, something religious and correct, something that puts everything back into its proper boxes. But the boxes have just been kicked off a cliff. You're still on your knees, hands in the dirt, and you feel ridiculous. The great enforcer of Jerusalem, face down on a roadside like a man who tripped over his own pride. You try to lift your head, and the brightness surges again, and you flinch. Your eyes burn. Your hands shake. You can hear your companions moving, panicking, stumbling around you. Their sandals scrape in frantic circles. Someone mutters a prayer that sounds like it's being squeezed out of him. Another one is breathing too fast. They saw something, they heard something, or they didn't, and that's worse. The voice speaks again, and this time it's instructions. Simple, non-negotiable. Get up, go into the city. You will be told what you must do. And just like that, the light is gone. Not gradually, gone. The world should return. Your vision should snap back into place. You blink, nothing. You blink harder, like you can force your eyes to behave through sheer discipline. Still nothing. The sun is there. You can feel its heat on your skin. But your eyes show you only darkness, like someone has thrown a thick cloth over your face from the inside. You sit back on your heels, breathing hard, and you lift your hands in front of your face. You can't see them. You wiggle your fingers anyway, because you're not ready to accept what's happening. Your companions rush closer. You hear their voices now, tight and uncertain, like men who have just watched their leader collapse and are trying to figure out how to pretend it didn't happen. Saul, are you hurt? What was that? Someone grabs your shoulder. The hand is rough and sweaty, and it grips too tight, because everyone is scared and nobody wants to admit it. You open your mouth and nothing comes out for a second. Your tongue feels too big. Your mind is too loud. I can't see. Silence. A horrible silence. You can almost hear their thoughts. This is not part of the plan. This is not how this story goes. A second hand takes your other arm. Now you're being pulled up, and you wobble immediately, because standing without sight is like trying to build a house without ground. The world tilts. Your stomach lurches. You grab at air like it owes you something. Your companions steady you. They're guiding you now, guiding you. You, Saul of Tarsus, who walked into homes like a verdict. You, who made grown men stare at the floor. Now you're being led by the hand on a dusty road like a child who wandered too close to a well. You can feel the humiliation rise hot in your throat. It mixes with the fear. It mixes with something worse, the awful suspicion that you deserve this. The walk to Damascus continues, but now it's different. Now every step is a question. You don't know where the stones are. You don't know where the ruts are. You lift your foot and place it down carefully, testing the ground like it might betray you. Your companions keep talking, too much, too fast, describing what they see, as if words can build a bridge over this. There's a bend ahead. Watch your step. Slow down. Slow down. You want to snarl at them. You don't, because you can't see. You can smell the city before you reach it. Damascus has water and people and animals in close proximity, which means the air is a thick stew of damp earth, sweat, donkey droppings, cooking smoke, and that sour tang of old drains doing their best. Voices layer over each other. Merchants shout. Metal clinks. Someone argues loudly about the price of something that should not require this level of emotion. A cart rattles past, wheels bumping stones. You stand at the edge of it all, blind, and the noise feels like a wall. Your companions steer you through. You brush past someone and hear them hiss in annoyance. You can't even apologize properly because you don't know where their face is. You catch a whiff of bread, fresh, softer than what you've been eating, and your stomach twists, not with hunger, but with the weird realization that life is continuing around you like nothing happened. Your world just exploded on a road. Damascus is still haggling over figs. You're brought into a house. You can tell it's a house because the air changes. Cooler, more enclosed. The smell of people living, oil, wool, stale food, maybe a faint hint of mildew in the corners where sunlight never goes. Hands guide you down onto something, maybe a mat, maybe a low bench. Your knees bend and you sit, stiff and careful. Someone says your name again, quieter this time. Someone else whispers to another person, and the whisper has that sharp edge of alarm. They know who you are. Of course they do. Your reputation walked into Damascus before you did. Your companions speak to whoever owns the house. You hear the papery sound of the letters being handled, the seal rubbed like a guarantee. They're explaining. They're trying to make sense of it. You sit there blind while your mission is discussed like a broken tool. The room smells like lentils and old smoke. Your head throbs. Your eyes feel open, but they show you nothing. You lift a hand and press your fingers to your eyelids. The skin is gritty. Dust has turned you into a portable road. It doesn't matter. Nothing changes. Hours pass in fragments. Someone offers you food. You smell it first. Warm bread, maybe, or stew with garlic. Your stomach responds automatically, then shuts down like it remembered it's in the middle of a crisis. You shake your head. Your throat tightens. You can't eat. Someone offers water. You take a sip because your mouth is dry enough to crack, but even that tastes wrong, like your tongue is offended by normal life. You can't stop hearing the voice. Saul, Saul, I am Jesus. Every time it repeats, your chest tightens. You try to pray, and the words feel unfamiliar in your mouth, like someone rearranged your language while you weren't looking. You lie down at some point. The mat beneath you is thin and smells like sweat baked into reeds. It scratches your cheek when you turn your head. Somewhere close by, a mouse, or something larger pretending not to be a mouse, scuttles along a wall. You keep your eyes open in the dark, which is now pointless because open and close feel the same. Sleep comes in brief, ugly chunks. You drift off, and your mind jerks you awake again, like it doesn't trust you to rest. Your body is exhausted, but your thoughts are sprinting in circles. Every certainty you wore like armor is suddenly heavy. Law, purity, boundary, righteousness. You built your whole identity with these bricks, stacked them high, admired the clean lines. Now the whole structure is cracked, and you're sitting in the rubble, blind. Morning comes because the sounds outside change. You hear movement, more voices, more footsteps. Someone outside sweeps, the brush scraping dirt in that steady rhythm that makes you want to scream because it's so normal. Inside, someone checks on you. They speak carefully, like you might bite. Saul, have you eaten? You shake your head. Your mouth feels thick. Your stomach growls, angry and confused, and you ignore it. Time becomes strange when you can't see. You don't know how long you've been lying there. You measure the day by the way your thirst returns, by the way the room warms and cools, by the change in street noise. You hear a child laugh outside. You hear a donkey bray like it's being possessed by irritation. You hear people talking about purchases, gossip, weather. Nobody is talking about the fact that Saul of Tarsus is sitting blind in a house, unraveling. By the second day, your companions sound different when they speak. Less confident. They've probably argued in the other room, quietly, like men who don't want the blind guy to hear that they don't have a plan. They came to Damascus with a predator. Now, they're babysitting a mystery. They bring you news in little pieces. They tell you spoke something while you slept. Muttered phrases, half prayers, half questions. They tell you keep saying the name, Jesus. You hate hearing that from their mouths. It feels like a stain. It feels like the world is upside down. Your mind keeps going back to Jerusalem, Stephen's face, not the blood and the stones, the peace, that unbearable calm, like he already knew something you didn't. You remember the way he looked past the men killing him. You remember thinking it was delusion. Now you're lying on a scratchy mat, blind, and you can't escape the possibility that it was something else. The third day arrives like the first two did, quietly, without ceremony. Your body's weak now. Not eating makes your limbs feel heavy, like your bones have turned to wet wood. When you sit up, the room tilts. Your head swims. Someone tries again with food. The smell is strong. Onion, herbs, maybe a bit of meat if someone had money or generosity. Your stomach lurches with hunger and revulsion. You wave it away. Your companions don't argue anymore. They're tired. Tired of your silence, tired of your blindness, tired of being in a story that won't explain itself. And somewhere else in Damascus, another man is having his own miserable day. His name is Ananias. You don't know that yet. You just feel the house shift when a new person arrives. Footsteps at the door, a pause. Voices low and urgent. You hear your name, and it's followed by the kind of whisper that carries fear. The door opens, and fresh air spills into the room. Someone steps in slowly, like he expects a trap. You can smell him. Outside dust, sweat, and that faint tang of someone who has been fasting or worrying. Maybe both. There's also a hint of oil on his skin, the cheap kind that people rub on because the air is dry and life is hard. He stands there, and you can feel his hesitation like heat. Someone clears their throat. Ananias. He's here. Ananias. The name lands softly, but the man attached to it sounds like he's fighting every instinct. I know who he is. His voice is tight, not angry, afraid. You don't blame him. You've spent years being the reason men's voices tighten. Ananias takes another step closer. You hear the faint creak of reeds under his sandals. You sit up a little straighter, because pride is the last thing to die, and yours is clinging on with bloody fingernails. For a moment, nobody speaks. The room holds its breath. You can almost hear the thought sitting between you. This is Saul. This is the one who drags people away. Ananias exhales. When he speaks your name, it doesn't sound like a curse. It sounds like a man obeying something he doesn't fully understand. Saul. Brother. Brother. The word is so wrong you almost laugh. It catches in your throat and turns into something closer to a choke. You don't see him lift his hands. You just feel the air change, the way you can feel when someone steps into your space. Then you feel his hands touch you. Warm palms, steady pressure, not violent, not grabbing, not dragging, just resting on you, as if you're not a threat, as if you're a person. His touch makes your skin prickle. Ananias speaks, and his voice steadies as he goes. The Lord, Jesus, sent me. You flinch at the name. He doesn't stop. He sent me, so you may see again, and be filled. Filled. Your mind reaches for the old categories and finds nothing that fits. You sit there, fist clenched in your lap, and you wait for something dramatic. The dramatic part is already happening. It starts as a sensation in your eyes, deep behind them, like pressure building. A sting. A scratchy itch that you can't reach, no matter how hard you blink. You squeeze your eyes shut. You open them. Still dark, but it's different now. Like the darkness is thinning. Your eyes water, and the tears spill hot down your cheeks. Then it happens. Something loosens. Something slides. And you feel it more than you see it at first. Like flakes peeling away from the inside of your face. You blink hard, and your vision stutters. Shapes rush in, blurry and overwhelming, Light, not the violent road light, but normal light, fills the room, and it hurts because your eyes are raw, like they've been scrubbed with sand. You gasp, a sharp sound you can't stop. Your sight returns in messy pieces. A wall, a doorway, a beam overhead dark with smoke stain, faces, your companions, staring like they've just watched a corpse sit up. Ananias close enough to touch you, his expression a mix of relief and lingering disbelief. Your hands lift automatically to your eyes, and you feel wet bits on your fingers. Not tears, little pieces, soft and slimy. You wipe them onto your tunic without thinking, because where else are you going to put them? Congratulations, you are now the proud owner of whatever that was. You blink again, slower this time. The room sharpens. Your chest feels too tight for your lungs. You stare at Ananias like he's both the answer and the problem. He looks back at you like a man who walked into a lion's den and found the lion crying. Someone speaks. Maybe you, maybe him. It doesn't matter yet, because the next thing that happens is even more humiliating. You are told to get up, not to go arrest people, to be washed, to be baptized, to let someone else lower you into water like you're starting over as an infant. You stand on legs that feel weak and unfamiliar, and you follow them, follow again, through the house. Someone brings water. Maybe there's a courtyard. Maybe there's a large basin. The details blur because your mind is roaring. Hands guide you. They help you. Step in. The water is cool against your skin, and it smells like stone and whatever was last washed in it. It's not scented. It's not special. It's just water in a world where nothing is clean for long. Ananias speaks words over you, and you let it happen. You let yourself be dipped. You let the water run over your head, into your beard, down your neck. For a second, everything goes quiet, like your ears are underwater too. When you come up, water streams down your face, and you wipe it away with both hands, gulping air. You stand dripping in a stranger's house, and you feel exposed in a way you've never felt. Not physically, spiritually. Like someone peeled your armor off and left you standing there in your own skin. They bring you food again. This time you take it. Your hands shake as you lift bread to your mouth. It's soft compared to travel bread, but your jaw still aches when you chew, because you've been clenching it for 3 days straight. The first swallow feels like your body remembering it's allowed to live. Your stomach cramps, then settles. Warmth spreads through you in slow waves. You drink water that tastes like clay and relief. Your companions watch you like they're trying to decide who you are now. So are you. Because what do you do when the voice you thought you served calls you the enemy? What do you do when the man you thought was dead speaks from light and calls you by name? You sit with your back against a wall, and you feel the weight of the letters still tucked in your things. Those rolled parchments didn't disintegrate in the light. They're still there, official, sealed, useless. You think about all the houses you kicked into, all the arms you grabbed, all the faces that turned white when you entered a room. You can't undo any of it. You can only sit here blinking at the normal light and accept that your life just turned into something you never would have chosen. Outside, Damascus keeps being Damascus. Vendors shout, animals complain, children run. Inside you're quiet for a long moment. Then you stand, not with the old swagger, with something else. A strange, trembling determination that feels like walking without a map. You ask where the believers are. Your companions stiffen. Ananias watches you carefully, like he's ready to sprint if you change back into who you were. You don't blame him. You go to the synagogues anyway. Of course you do. You've always gone to the synagogues. Your feet carry you there like muscle memory. The streets are crowded, and you have to squeeze past people with baskets, past men arguing, past a goat tied to a post that smells like it has never once been introduced to soap. The sun is lower now, slanting into alleys. Your eyes still ache from the days of darkness and the sudden return. Everything seems too bright, too sharp. You step into the synagogue, and the air changes. Cooler, heavy with old wood and human bodies, and that faint dusty smell of scrolls handled by 1,000 hands. Heads turn. Whispers begin immediately, because your face is known even here. Damascus has heard of Saul. Damascus has braced itself. You can feel it. The way men straighten, the way a few take a step back, the way someone's hand tightens around the edge of a bench. They're waiting for the announcement. They're waiting for the hunt. You open your mouth. Your throat is dry. Your voice comes out rougher than you expect, like your body is still recovering from being knocked out of its own story. And you say it, not carefully, not diplomatically. You say it like a man who has been burned alive and is describing the fire. Jesus is the Son of God. The room goes still, not a peaceful still, a stunned still, like the air itself just got slapped. Somebody makes a sound, half cough, half laugh, half, did I hear that correctly? You keep going, because stopping now would kill you. You speak, and the words pour out with the frantic energy of a man trying to outrun his own past. You talk about the light. You talk about the voice. You talk about what you saw or didn't see, and how you were led into the city blind. You don't dress it up. You can't. You're standing there in a room full of men who expected you to be the wolf, and you're telling them the wolf got flipped onto its back and shown its own throat. Faces tighten. Some look offended. Some look afraid. Some look angry in that slow, simmering way that says, "This has to be stopped." You recognize that look. You used to wear it. You keep speaking anyway. Days pass like that. You move through Damascus with a new reputation forming behind you like a shadow. Now people cross the street for a different reason. Now they don't know what to do with you. You can feel the city adjusting around you. The believers you came to arrest look at you like you're a dream they don't trust. The men who would have helped you bind them look at you like you're contaminated. And you, Saul, walk through all of it with your head aching, your eyes still tender, and your whole identity rebuilt on a foundation you never wanted. You lie down at night and the mat still scratches. The house still smells like oil and smoke and too many people living too close. Your stomach still twists when you remember Stephen. Your hands still remember the weight of other men's coats. But now, when you close your eyes, the darkness isn't empty. It's crowded with a voice that knows your name. And in the middle of the normal night sounds, the distant donkey, the murmuring city, the scuttle in the corner, you realize the most terrifying part isn't the blindness. It's that you can see now, not just with your eyes, with everything. And there's no going back to the man who walked out of Jerusalem with letters tucked to his chest like a promise. 3 years pass in the Arabian desert, and nothing about it feels like a cute spiritual retreat. It's rock and glare and silence so loud it gets inside your teeth. The wind keeps throwing sand at your face like it has a personal grudge. Your water tastes like warm leather and regret. At night, the cold drops in like a thief, and you curl into your cloak listening for scorpions doing their nightly crime spree. When you finally come out of that wilderness, you come out leaner and harder. Not glowing, just cooked. You walk back into human society with desert dust still living in your hair, and now your entire life is basically travel until you collapse, stand up again, and keep going. because that voice you heard on the road didn't give you a nice indoor job. It gave you a road, and the road is not kind. You end up in Antioch, where the streets stink of fish guts and olive brine and too many bodies in too little space. The city is loud all the time, like it's allergic to peace. Merchants shout, donkeys bray, metal clanks. Somewhere a child is crying in a way that suggests nobody is coming. This is where you meet the kind of people who open their homes to believers. Living rooms become meeting halls. Someone's courtyard becomes a church. Someone's bread becomes communion. You sit shoulder to shoulder with strangers on woven mats that smell like old sweat and crushed herbs, and you talk about a kingdom that doesn't look like Rome. Sometimes there's singing, soft and careful, because attention is dangerous. Sometimes there's just whispering and the sound of someone tearing bread with trembling fingers. But the road keeps calling. And the first time you set out as a missionary, it's not triumphant. It's you, Barnabas, a few others, and a bag of supplies that never feels heavy enough. You hit the Roman roads and immediately remember, sandals are a hateful invention. The stones are sharp, polished by thousands of feet and hooves and cartwheels. The road is crowned in the middle, so you're always walking on a slight slant, like you're being punished by civil engineering. Dust cakes your ankles. Sweat runs down your back and collects at your belt until your tunic sticks to you like a wet rag. Your feet develop blisters, and then the blisters develop blisters. You wrap them with strips of cloth that used to be something else, and you pretend that helps. It doesn't. At night, you find places to sleep, and inn is a generous word. Sometimes it's a room above a stable. Sometimes it's the stable. Sometimes it's an open courtyard with a wall on one side and a goat on the other. The straw mattress is basically decorative. It smells like bugs, old urine, and the lingering essence of whatever died here last month. You lie down anyway, because you're exhausted. You close your eyes, and you can feel fleas hopping like they're late to a meeting. Morning comes, and you start again. You sail when you can, because walking everywhere is how you slowly turn into a limping legend. The first time you get on a ship, you understand immediately why people pray so much at sea. The boat is cramped, damp, and coated in a permanent film of fish slime and human anxiety. The ropes smell like mildew. The deck smells like tar and sweat and someone's fermented lunch. The sailors move like men who trust nothing but wind and spite. You sit among cargo, amphorae of oil, sacks of grain, bundles of something that keeps leaking, and you try to look like you're not one big wave away from vomiting your soul out. The sea does that thing where it looks calm, and then it isn't. The horizon tilts. Your stomach tries to crawl up your throat and escape. You grip the side of the ship and stare at the water, telling yourself you are fine. The water does not care. You end up on Cyprus, and the air is warmer and heavier, full of salt and flowering trees and the sharp smell of crushed herbs underfoot. It's pretty for about 15 minutes, until you remember you're here to walk into towns and tell people their gods are fake. You find synagogues first, because you know how these rooms work. You know the rhythm of readings, the way men shift on benches, the way someone clears his throat like a warning. You speak, and heads turn, and you can feel that old energy rise, a tension like heat on your face. Sometimes people lean in, sometimes they lean away. Sometimes they argue with you in that tight, furious way that means you've poked a wound. You learn fast that convincing someone is not like winning a debate. It's like trying to move a donkey by reasoning with it. Occasionally it works. More often you get brayed at. You move on, you sail again, and you hit Asia Minor, where the hills roll like hard knuckles and the roads climb until your calves burn. The sun pounds down. Your cloak becomes a portable sauna. You smell like sweat, dust, and old travel bread. And now, the real fun starts. Because this is where you discover what it feels like to be politely tolerated in a town, right up until you're not. In Pisidian Antioch you speak, and at first the room is curious. People listen, people nod. You can almost feel hope rising, warm in your chest, like maybe this time you won't end the week bleeding. But then the arguments start, voices sharpen, someone's face goes red, someone stands too fast, bench scraping stone, and suddenly the whole place has that crackling feeling of a fight that's been waiting all day. You're ushered out of the area like yesterday's trash. Not gently, not with a handshake. You leave with your heart pounding and your jaw clenched, and you keep walking because standing still is how you get grabbed. In Iconium, it's the same story, just louder. You speak. People split into sides. Whispers turn into shouting. The air gets thick with anger and bodies pressed too close. You can smell breath. You can smell sweat. You can smell that sour fair sweat that hits when a crowd decides it wants blood. You leave before the crowd can organize itself properly. You do not wait for the stones to come out. Lystra, though, is where you learn what it feels like when the stones actually do come out. It starts as confusion, because the town isn't sophisticated in the way big cities are. Here, rumor moves faster than reason. People see something they can't explain, and their brains immediately sprint toward the nearest myth. 1 minute you're trying to speak, the next minute someone is dragging a bull toward you, like it's your birthday surprise. They're treating you like a god. For a moment, you're standing there, blinking, watching a priest in ceremonial clothes fuss around like this is a scheduled event. It's almost funny. Almost. Because you know how crowds are. The same crowd that will worship you will also kill you if the wind shifts. And sure enough, the wind shifts. Someone arrives from another town. Words get hissed into ears. Expressions change. That warmth in the crowd curdles into something else. Like milk left in the sun. Stones appear in hands. Not small stones. Not symbolic stones. The kind that fit the palm like they were made for this. The first rock hits you and the world goes white for a second. Not holy light. Pain light. It cracks into your shoulder and your arm goes numb. Another hits your ribs. You hear yourself grunt, and it sounds like it's coming from someone else. The crowd surges. Your feet tangle. You go down. And once you're down, it becomes a hobby for everyone. Stones thud into flesh. Your head rings. Your mouth fills with blood, metallic and hot, and you try to curl up, but there's nowhere to hide your bones. Somebody hits your face, and your vision explodes in sparks. You taste dirt. You taste blood. You taste the inside of your own cheek. At some point, the noise changes. Not because they got bored, because they decide you're dead. Hands grab you by the ankles, and you feel yourself being dragged. Your back scrapes the ground. Pebbles cut into your skin through your tunic. You're hauled outside the town like garbage, dumped, and left there in the dust with flies already doing that optimistic little landing and rubbing their hands thing. You lie there, blinking at the sky. Your lungs pull in air like they're offended to still be working. Pain blooms everywhere, slow and deep, like your whole body is one big bruise learning its shape. Some believers creep up to you, careful, like they're approaching a wounded animal. They whisper your name. You manage to move. That's when they realize, with a mixture of relief and horror, that you're not dead. So you do the only reasonable thing, apparently. You get up. You stagger back into town, because humiliation has been replaced by something sturdier. You spend the night somewhere with a roof and a mat and a bowl of water that looks pink when you rinse your mouth. Someone tries to clean your cuts with oil that stings like fire. Your head throbs. Every breath hurts. In the morning, you leave. Of course you leave. You have a body that can barely stand upright, and a road that doesn't care. Days bleed into weeks, and your life becomes a loop. Arrive. Find people willing to listen. Meet in a home. Eat what they offer. Try not to die. Move on. In Philippi, you find out what Roman rods feel like. It starts with a girl shouting, because your presence stirs things up in ways you can't control. Her owners get angry because money is involved, and nothing makes people holy like losing profit. They drag you into the public square. The crowd is already there because crowds are always there, looking for entertainment. Someone shouts an accusation. Someone else shouts louder. The magistrates don't do a careful investigation. They do what officials do when they want the noise to stop. They order you stripped. Your tunic is yanked up, your belt pulled loose, and suddenly you're half naked in front of strangers with your skin exposed to cold air and colder eyes. Then the rods come down. The first strike is shock. The second is pain. By the third, your mind is trying to leave your body because your body has become an unsafe place to be. Wood cracks against flesh. Your back lights up in burning lines. You bite your tongue to keep from screaming, and you taste blood again. Somewhere in the mess, you hear laughter. You hear someone gasp. You hear the rods whistle through the air before they hit, which is its own special kind of torture, because your body braces and still can't stop it. When they're finished, you can't stand straight. They throw you into prison, because why stop at beating when you can also add damp misery? The jail is a stone box that smells like human waste, old sweat, and mold that has been eating the walls for years. The floor is gritty. The air is thick. Your wounds stick to your clothing, and every time you shift, the fabric pulls and you see stars. Your feet are clamped in stocks because comfort is illegal. The other prisoners watch you in the dark, silent, like they're waiting to see if you're going to die or start screaming. You don't scream. You're too tired. Somewhere in the night, you and your companion speak quietly, because silence is worse. And then the ground shakes. Not a polite tremor. A real shake that makes dust fall from the ceiling and stones grind against stones. Chains rattle. Someone yells. A jar breaks somewhere, and you smell spilled oil. Doors swing. The jailer panics, because his job just turned into a death sentence. He's ready to kill himself rather than face Roman consequences. You stop him. You keep him from making the worst decision of his life in a dark room that stinks of fear. By morning, your back is still torn up. Your muscles are still screaming. And now you're sitting in someone's house while they wash your wounds with water that feels both merciful and brutal. It runs down your sides, warm with your blood. They bring you bread. They bring you stew. You eat like a man who has learned not to trust tomorrow. And then you leave, because staying is how you get cornered again. In Thessalonica, you barely get started before the city decides it has had enough of you. A mob forms, because mobs are basically a civic hobby at this point. People surge through streets. Feet slap stone. Voices echo off walls. Someone drags one of your hosts out into the open and demands answers. You slip away at night, guided by believers who know the back alleys. The moonlight makes everything look silver and suspicious. You keep your head down. You don't breathe too loud. In Berea, it's calmer at first. People listen. They talk. They argue without spitting in your face, which is honestly refreshing. But the trouble follows you like a stray dog. Men arrive from Thessalonica with that same hard look. The atmosphere changes. Believers rush you out again because they've seen what happens when you linger. You end up in Athens alone, waiting, walking through streets that smell like incense and wine and money. This city is full of statues, marble gods on every corner, altars tucked into courtyards, images staring down at you with blank stone confidence. You talk in the marketplace, because where else would you talk? Philosophers argue like it's sport. They're curious, amused, skeptical. You stand there, dusty and travel-worn, and you speak into a city that thinks it has heard every idea already. Some laugh. Some want to hear more. Some shrug and wander off, because lunch is more interesting than salvation. You leave again. Corinth hits you like a slap. The city is rich and loud and smells like sea salt mixed with sewage, because the drains never win. The streets are crowded with sailors, merchants, temple visitors, and people who look like they're always either celebrating or regretting it. This is where you settle for a while, because your body can't keep doing constant travel without turning into a pile of bones. So you work. You make tents. Not glamorous, not inspirational montage. It's you hunched over rough fabric, hands raw from cutting and stitching. The leather smells sharp and animal. The thread bites into your fingers. Your back aches from bending. Your shoulders burn. You work with people who know the trade, and you talk while your hands move, because idle hands aren't your problem. Idle silence is. You rent a place to sleep that's barely better than a storage room. There's always dust. There's always noise. Someone is always cooking something that smells like onions and smoke and slightly scorched oil. You keep going anyway. At night, you meet with believers in homes. Oil lamps flicker, making shadows jump on the walls. You can hear the city outside, laughter, shouting, a distant fight, a dog barking like it has a complaint with the universe. Inside, people sit close. A woman with tired eyes holds a baby who won't stop fussing. An old man coughs into his sleeve. Someone passes bread. You talk about hope like it's a real thing you can hold. Sometimes it feels real. Sometimes it feels like you're trying to light a lamp in a storm. And the letters start. Not the official arrest letters you carried to Damascus. These are different. These are you dictating or scratching words onto parchment with cramped fingers. Your ink smells sharp. Your hand cramps. The room is hot from too many bodies and too little ventilation. You write anyway because you can't be everywhere at once, and people are hungry for guidance like they're starving. When trouble comes in Corinth, it comes through bureaucracy and shouting. Accusers haul you before a tribunal, and you stand there, tired, listening to men spit words like stones. You brace for punishment. You brace for the rods again. But the official loses patience with the whole mess and dismisses it like it's an annoying fly. You walk away stunned. Not because you won, because you didn't get beaten. That's what your life has become. You count mercy in the shape of unbroken skin. You keep moving. Ephesus is the kind of place that feels alive in your hands. It's a port city, full of salt air and wet rope and fish and perfume layered over rot. There are merchants everywhere selling little idols, little silver shrines, little portable gods you can buy like souvenirs. You arrive and start speaking, and people listen. A lot of people. For a while, it feels like the ground is finally steady. Believers multiply. Meetings fill courtyards. Names you didn't know last month now greet you like family. You work, you teach, you argue, you sweat through your tunic every day. But success has a smell too. It smells like threatened income. The idol makers notice. They start muttering. They stir up each other's anger in workshops that ring with hammer blows and resentment. One day, the city ignites. A crowd surges toward the theatre, thousands of voices smashing together into one roaring animal. The heat is brutal, bodies pressed tight, dust kicked up until the air tastes like grit. You're caught in the pull of it, dragged along by panic and momentum. People shout slogans they barely understand. Someone screams a name. Someone else screams louder, because loudness is contagious. You hear the chant rise and rise again, repeating until it becomes meaningless noise. For hours, the crowd rages. You can smell sweat and breath and the sour stink of fear. You can see fists in the air. You can see eyes wild with that mob glaze, like everyone is sleepwalking together. Believers hold you back from stepping into it, because courage is not the same thing as being torn apart. Eventually, the city official calms them down, disperses them, sends them home to their dinners and their normal lives. You stand there afterward, heart still pounding, and you realize you are very tired, not spiritually, physically, bone tired. And it doesn't stop, because it never stops. You travel again, and with travel comes the sea, and with the sea comes shipwrecks. Not once, not twice, more. One voyage starts fine, because that's how traps work. The ship creaks, the wind is decent. The sailors are almost cheerful in that hardened way, and you let yourself believe you might actually arrive without incident. Then the storm hits. The sky turns the color of bruises. Rain whips sideways, stinging your face like thrown gravel. The wind howls through rigging, making ropes hum and snap. The deck becomes a sliding mess of water and screaming men. You grab a rail and your hands slip because everything is soaked. The ship pitches and your stomach flips. Crates shift below deck with dull thuds. Someone yells for ballast. Someone else is praying like his life depends on it. It does. Waves slam the hull with a force that feels personal. Water pours over the side, freezing and salty, and you choke when it hits your mouth. The ship groans like it's alive and offended. At some point, wood splinters. A crack runs through the sound of the storm like a sentence being pronounced. The ship breaks. There's no elegant way to describe it. One moment you're on a boat, the next you're on debris. You're in the sea, and it's colder than you expect, stealing breath from your lungs. Salt burns your eyes. You sputter and kick, grabbing for something, plank, barrel, whatever is floating that isn't actively trying to drown you. Your fingers clamp onto wet wood, and you cling like an animal. The night is endless. The waves lift you, drop you, spin you. Your arms cramp. Your jaw shakes. You taste salt until you feel like you've turned into salt. You see lightning flash, white and violent, revealing other heads bobbing in the water like ghosts. Somewhere nearby, someone is sobbing. Somebody else is silent, which is worse. Eventually, you wash up, half dead, on some stretch of land that smells like wet sand and seaweed and your own misery. You crawl up the beach and lie there, coughing water, shaking uncontrollably. You are not heroic. You are a drenched, shivering man with sand stuck to your face. When people find you, they don't greet you with trumpets. They stare. Then they do what humans sometimes do at their best. They build a fire. The smoke stings your eyes. The heat hits your skin like a blessing. Your clothes steam sour with seawater. You hold your hands out and try to stop shaking. And because your life has a sense of humor that only a cruel storyteller would write, a snake bites someone near the fire and everyone panics, and you end up being watched like you're either cursed or magical. You just want to dry off. Your entire existence is like this. You walk into towns where you know nobody. You rent space in someone's life. You talk, you work, you get accused, you get chased. Sometimes you get welcomed. Sometimes you get whipped. The whippings become their own grim calendar. 39 lashes, because people know exactly how far they can go without crossing a line. The whip bites your back, and you learn the sound it makes before it hits. Leather through air, impact, a sharp tearing burn. Your skin splits, blood runs warm down your sides, your muscles lock up, your teeth grind. You count without wanting to, because your body can't help tracking its own suffering. 20, 30, 39. Afterward, your tunic sticks to you. Every movement pulls at raw flesh. You lie on your stomach because you can't bear pressure on your back, and the floor beneath you is hard and gritty, and you stare at nothing while your body tries to remember how to be whole. And you do it again. Not the same day, not the same month, but again. 5 times. 5 separate occasions where someone decides with solemn confidence that you need to be shredded for the crime of speaking. 3 times you're beaten with rods. Once you're stoned and left for dead. More times than you can count, you're threatened, chased, cornered. You spend nights without sleep because you're on a road, or on a ship, or in a cell, or in a crowded room where someone is snoring like a dying ox. You spend nights hungry because food ran out or nobody offered. You spend nights cold because your cloak is thin and the wind doesn't care about your mission statement. You learn to live with constant discomfort, like it's a companion walking beside you. And still you keep seeing small victories, quiet ones, the kind that don't make noise. A woman in a riverside meeting in Philippi opening her home. A jailer washing blood off your back with shaking hands. A group in Corinth sharing bread like it matters. People in Ephesus turning away from old lives and old fears. Letters carried by friends, folded and guarded like treasure. It's never glamorous. It's oil lamps and cramped rooms and people trying to be brave while the world stays dangerous. Sometimes you show up in a town and you can feel the tension immediately. The synagogue leader's smile is too tight. The questions are too sharp. Men watch you like they're weighing stones in their hands. You speak anyway. Sometimes you don't even get to finish before someone starts shouting. Sometimes you do finish, and the shouting comes afterward, in the street, with a crowd gathering like rain clouds. You learn to leave quickly. You learn which alleys lead out. You learn that a friend's hand on your elbow can be the difference between escape and a beating. You also learn bad hospitality, which is its own kind of suffering. Some homes are warm, some are barely functional. You sleep in corners near animals because that's where space is. You wake up with hay stuck to your face, listening to a rooster that appears to be screaming directly into your skull. You eat bread so hard it could be used as building material. You drink water that tastes like clay. You chew dried fish that smells like it died offended. You accept bowls of stew that are mostly onions and hope. You smile and thank people because they're giving what they have. Your stomach does not always agree with your gratitude. There are days you miss the desert because at least the desert is honest. The desert tells you up front it wants you dead. Cities pretend. One day you're welcomed. The next day, you're the reason everyone is angry. You're a guest until you're a problem. You're useful until you're inconvenient. And yet you keep getting up, packing your few things, tying your sandals, and stepping back onto the road. Roman roads are good, people say. Safe, people say. Maintained, people say. You would like to introduce those people to bandits. You travel with companions when you can, because walking alone is how you vanish. Even in a group, you stay alert. A shadow on a ridge makes you tense. A sudden silence in the trees makes you listen harder. A stranger approaching too fast sets your hand near whatever you can grab. You cross rivers on bridges that creak and smell like wet wood. You ford streams, cold water biting your calves. You climb hills where the wind cuts through your cloak and your breath comes out thin. You descend into valleys where the air is thick and still and buzzing with insects. Sometimes you see a Roman patrol and you feel safer. Sometimes you see a Roman patrol and you feel worse. Because Rome can protect you from thieves. Rome can also arrest you. Your status as a Roman citizen becomes this strange card you carry. Sometimes it saves you. Sometimes it makes people hate you more. You move through the empire like a splinter, not large enough to kill the body, just irritating enough that the body keeps trying to dig you out. Years pass. Your beard gets more grey. Your face gets more lined. Your hands harden from work, scar from ropes and tools and travel. Your back is a map of old wounds, raised lines you can feel when you wash. You become someone who can sleep almost anywhere, which is not a gift. It's survival. You learn to eat quickly. You learn to keep your belongings close, because theft is easier than kindness. You learn that friendship can look like someone walking with you a few miles, just so you won't be alone on a dangerous stretch. You learn that love can look like a woman pressing extra bread into your hand without meeting your eyes, because she's afraid someone will see. You learn that courage can look like a man opening his door at night and letting you in, even though it might cost him. And your words travel farther than your feet. Someone reads a letter you wrote by lamplight, and it steadies them. Someone copies it carefully, because parchment isn't cheap, and neither is hope. Someone carries it folded inside their tunic across miles of road, guarding it like it's gold. You can't see all of it. You just keep moving. And somewhere along the way, you start to realize this is your life now. Not one dramatic conversion moment. Not one single grand speech. It's the long, grinding middle. The part where your body hurts, your plans fail, people misunderstand you, and you still show up. You still talk. You still stitch leather with sore fingers. You still sit in cramped rooms that smell like oil and smoke and too many people breathing. You still break bread. You still pray with men who used to be strangers. You still leave towns at night, slipping through alleys, heart beating hard, guided by whispers. 30 years of this. 30 years of roads and ships and bruises. 30 years of strangers' flaws and bad water and worse tempers. 30 years of watching little communities form in the cracks of an empire that thinks it's eternal. And every time you think you've finally earned a season of calm, the road opens again in front of you like a challenge. Another city, another harbour, another synagogue, another house with a flickering lamp and a nervous host, and a room full of listening faces. Another stretch of stone road under your sandals, waiting to take its share of skin. You shoulder your bag, feel the familiar ache in your feet, and you step forward anyway. After decades of narrow escapes, you decide to return to Jerusalem. Everyone warns you not to go. The warnings are not subtle. They're the kind delivered with grim eye contact, like someone handing you a bowl of stew and whispering, "This is poison, by the way." You go anyway. Jerusalem hits you with that familiar, exhausting punch of sacred chaos. The streets are tighter than you remember, and everything smells like sun-baked stone, sweat, and animals that have been standing in the same place all day, thinking about rebellion. There's dust in your teeth the moment you open your mouth. Pilgrims pour through the gates in waves, pressed shoulder to shoulder, carrying baskets, leading sheep, dragging children who are already crying like they've been personally betrayed by holiness. Somewhere nearby, someone is selling dates. Nearby is something else that smells like a goat made a terrible decision. You can feel eyes on you. Not everyone, not all at once. Just enough. That prickly sensation like your name is getting passed around without your permission. You make your way to the believers, and it's that strange feeling of warmth and pressure at the same time. Hugs that turn into urgent conversations. Smiles that don't quite hold. Men clasping your forearms a little too hard, like they're checking you're still real. You find James, steady as ever, and the elders with him. Their room smells like oil lamps and old wood and a faint tang of dried fish. Somebody's been cooking lentils. Somebody has also been sweating directly into their robe for hours. They greet you like family, and immediately you can feel the tension under it, like a rope pulled tight. They've heard your stories. They've heard about the Gentiles coming in, about whole households turning, about old idols getting tossed out like trash. They're glad. They're also worried, because you're in Jerusalem now, and Jerusalem is a city where rumors don't walk. They sprint. They do laps. They start lifting weights. You sit, and before you can even fully exhale, you realize what the problem is. There are thousands of believers here, and many of them are zealous for the law. They're still going to the temple. They're still doing the rituals. They're still keeping the customs that make them feel like themselves. And your name has been dragged through enough conversations that it has its own footprint in the dust. People are saying, you teach Jews living among the nations to abandon Moses. People are saying you tell them not to circumcise their children. People are saying you're tearing at the fabric of the whole people, thread by thread, with your big Gentile-friendly mouth. It's not just disagreement, it's identity panic. James looks at you like a man trying to keep a roof from collapsing. Calm voice, heavy eyes. He tells you what they've decided. You need to show everyone you still respect the law. You need to do something visible, so they suggest you take part in purification rites at the temple, sponsor a few men who are finishing vows, pay their expenses, do the whole public, look, I'm fine, nobody scream routine. It's the ancient version of a PR strategy, except the PR team is sweating and your consequences involve rocks. You agree. Because what else are you going to do? Argue in Jerusalem. You head to the temple and the whole city seems to funnel toward it, like everything else is just decoration. The air shifts as you approach. Less market stink, more incense, more hot metal, more blood. You can smell the sacrifices before you see them. It's a thick, meaty smell, iron and smoke and animal fat, mixed with perfume and sweat, and the sharp tang of too many bodies pressed into sacred space. Priests move through like they own the place, because they do. Sandals slap stone, coins clink, doves flutter in cages, offended by existence. You start the purification process. This is not glamorous. This is washing, waiting, doing everything carefully, trying to look peaceful, while your nerves keep tapping you on the shoulder like, hey, remember Lystra? Days pass like that. You're trying to keep your head down, trying to be respectful, trying to look like you belong. And you do belong. You're a Jew. You've been in this world since you were born. You know the prayers, the rhythms, the ways men stand and tilt their heads. But you can feel it anyway. You're known now. You're marked. And now we arrive at the part nobody talks about. It starts with a few men from Asia. You spot them before you understand the danger. Their faces tighten when they see you, like they've just tasted something bitter. Their eyes dart, not just at you, but past you, scanning for an audience. Because outrage loves an audience. They begin to shout. At first, it's a few sharp words, then more, then louder. And suddenly, it's a whole accusation spilling into the air. They call you a teacher, against the people, against the law, against this place. The words bounce off stone and multiply. And then the big one hits, the accusation designed to light a fuse. They scream that you brought a Gentile into the temple, that you dragged an outsider past the barrier that keeps the sacred from being polluted. It doesn't even matter that it isn't true. Someone saw you in the city with Trophimus, a Gentile from Ephesus, and their imagination did the rest. Jerusalem doesn't do verify. Jerusalem does vibrate with rage. The crowd turns like a school of fish sensing blood. You feel it before hands touch you. The air changes, a collective inhale. Bodies shifting, sandals scraping stone. Then you're grabbed. A fist catches your robe, jerking you off balance. Someone else yanks your arm. Fingers dig into your skin hard enough to hurt through cloth. You open your mouth to speak, but a shoulder slams you, and your breath jumps out of you in a grunt. They drag you. Not politely, not carefully. You're hauled across the temple courts as people surge around you, shouting into your face. Spittle hits your cheek. Somebody's elbow jabs your ribs. Your feet skid and stumble on stone. You try to get your footing. You don't get to. A blow lands on the side of your head, and your vision tilts. The roar of the crowd becomes a physical thing, a wall of sound pressing against your skull. They pull you out of the inner area, because even in fury, they've got rules. You can feel the boundary in the way hands shift, the way the crowd wants you outside. And as soon as you're out, the beating becomes communal. It's not one person. It's everybody's turn. A punch to your jaw. A slap that stings and leaves your ear ringing. A kick to your thigh that makes your leg buckle. You taste blood again. Of course you do. Somebody hits you in the mouth and you feel skin split. Your tongue runs over your teeth like it's doing a quick inventory. Your heart pounds hard, enough to make your chest ache. They are going to kill you, not might. This crowd has that locked-in look. The eyes aren't curious anymore. They're resolved. They've decided what you are, and now they're acting it out. Hands keep hauling you, half dragging, half shoving, toward a place where you can be finished without making the temple too messy. Your shoulder scrapes stone. Your sandals twist under your feet. Someone's ringed hand punches you, and the metal bites your cheekbone. Your eye waters instantly, furious and helpless. You hear screaming. Some of it is at you. Some of it is just people screaming because it feels good to scream in a crowd. And then the Romans show up. You don't see them at first. You feel the shift. The crowd's roar changes pitch, like a dog hearing a whistle. A shout cuts through in Latin, sharp and commanding. Armor clinks. Sandals hit stone in a disciplined rhythm, fast. The Roman soldiers push in like a wedge, shields and bodies, forcing space. The crowd snarls at them, but it hesitates, because Rome is not a neighbor you can casually ignore. A centurion grabs you, not gently, and hauls you upright like you're a sack of grain that's inconveniently bleeding. Your arm gets twisted behind you, and pain shoots up to your shoulder. Your breath hitches. They're not saving you because they like you. They're saving you because riots are paperwork. The commander, Claudius Lysias, though you don't get a friendly introduction, barks questions. He wants to know who you are, what you did, why everyone is trying to turn you into paste on the pavement. The crowd shouts answers that contradict each other. He defiled the temple. He teaches against the law. He's a blasphemer. He's bringing Greeks into holy places. You can almost hear the commander's internal sigh. He orders you bound. Chains bite your wrists, cold metal against sweaty skin. It's familiar now, in the worst way. The links rattle as they start to move you, and the crowd surges after, still reaching, still trying to land one more hit. You get shoved toward the stairs that lead up to the barracks of Antonia, overlooking the temple area. And this is where it gets absurd. The crowd presses in so tight, so furious, so eager to finish you, that the soldiers have to lift you. You are literally carried up the stairs by Roman soldiers like a hostile piece of furniture. Your feet leave the ground. Your stomach lurches. You're pressed against a soldier's armor, and it smells like leather, sweat, metal, and old oil. His shoulder digs into your ribs. Below you, voices chant for your death. Away with him! It rises and falls, a brutal rhythm, like they're trying to drown out your heartbeat. The commander is trying to drag you into the fortress, and as you're jostled, bruised, half carried through the noise, you manage to speak. You ask, in Greek, if you can say something. The commander blinks. You can almost see the surprise land. You're not the kind of prisoner he expected. You're bleeding, yes, but you're not groveling or babbling. You're speaking polished Greek. He asks if you're that Egyptian who stirred up a revolt. For a split second, even through the pain, your brain does that incredulous laugh. You've been mistaken for a terrorist. Again, you tell him no. You tell him you're a Jew from Tarsus, a citizen of no insignificant city. And you ask again, can you speak to the people? The commander, possibly against his better judgment, lets you. So there you are, on the stairs, chained, blood drying sticky around your mouth, your face swelling where hands landed. You raise your hand. It's a small gesture. It shouldn't work. But something about it makes the crowd pause, like curiosity sneaks in through the side door, even when rage is holding the main entrance. You start speaking to them in Hebrew, or Aramaic, the tongue of home. The sound of it changes everything. You can feel it. Faces shift. The noise drops a notch. You tell them who you are. You tell them you were raised in this city, that you were educated under Gamaliel, that you were zealous, just like them. You talk about hunting believers. You talk about letters of authority. You can feel the crowd listening, tense, because you're describing a version of yourself they recognize. You can smell their breath from where you stand. Then you speak of the road, the light, the voice, the blindness. You can hear a ripple in the silence, a tremor of discomfort, because this is not the script they expected. You're not begging. You're not insulting them. You're telling them you used to be them. You tell them about Ananias, a devout man according to the law, respected by all the Jews living there. You tell them you were baptized. You tell them you came back to Jerusalem once and fell into a trance, and the Lord warned you to leave quickly because they would not accept your testimony. And you say you argued, because of course you did. You always argue. Even with heaven. You tell them, you said, they know me. They know I was the one arresting people. You can feel the crowd holding still, like a beast crouched, deciding. And then you say the word that sets everything on fire. You say you were sent to the Gentiles. That's it. Just that. Gentiles. The crowd explodes so fast it's almost impressive. The noise comes back like a wave slamming into rock. Men scream, throwing their arms up, tearing at their robes, flinging dust into the air like they're trying to curse the sky itself. Away with such a fellow from the earth. He's not fit to live. It's sudden, violent, irrational, and also deeply predictable. Because some people can handle a miracle story. They can't handle the idea of outsiders being welcomed in. The commander watches this, clearly understanding none of the words, but fully understanding the vibe. He orders you taken inside. You're dragged into the barracks, away from the crowd, and for a moment the noise muffles behind thick stone. Inside it smells like soldiers live here. Leather, sweat, old wine, boiled grain, and that metallic tang of weapons that are always close to hands. The commander decides the best way to figure out what's going on is to interrogate you by scourging. Of course he does. Rome has two main tools for clarity: questions and pain. They stretch you out. Your arms are pulled wide. Ropes bite into your wrists. Your back is exposed. The air hits your bruises and makes your skin prickle. You know what a scourge is. You've seen it. You've felt plenty already in your life. The whip, the hooks, the way it turns your skin into a lesson. A soldier steps close, casually, like he's about to do chores, and right before they start, you say the sentence that changes everything. You ask if it's lawful to scourge a man who is a Roman citizen, uncondemned. The rope seems to tighten in the silence that follows. The soldier's face shifts. Not fear exactly. More like the sudden realization that he might have just stepped onto a legal landmine. He goes to the commander. Words are exchanged quickly. The commander comes over, looks at you, and asks if you really are a Roman citizen. You say yes. He says he obtained his citizenship with a large sum. You tell him you were born a citizen. That lands with a quiet thud. The room changes. The soldiers step back. The ropes loosen. The whole atmosphere turns careful, like everyone suddenly remembers rules exist, and breaking them can ruin your week. You're still chained though. Don't get excited. Rome isn't sorry. Rome is just adjusting the method. The commander wants to know what you're actually accused of. So the next day he brings you before the council. You're taken out, down into the city again, and the air is back to dust and sun and the smell of people who have been standing in crowds all morning. The council chamber is tense, packed with men who look like they were born disapproving. Beards, robes, sharp eyes. A room built for judgment. You stand there, wrists still marked from ropes, jaw still sore, your mouth tasting faintly of dried blood. You begin to speak. You say you have lived your life before God in all good conscience up to this day. A man named Ananias, the high priest, orders those standing near you to strike you on the mouth. And someone does. The slap hits your split lip, and pain flashes white. Your head snaps slightly, and you taste fresh blood, salty and hot. You react. Of course you do. You call him a whitewashed wall, which is the kind of insult that feels satisfying for exactly 2 seconds before you remember you're surrounded. Someone hisses that you're speaking against the high priest. You say you didn't know he was the high priest, because it's hard to keep track when everyone in the room has the same facial expression. The council is split. Pharisees and Sadducees, old rivals sharing a room like siblings forced to sit together at a wedding. You know how this goes. So you say you're on trial concerning the hope and resurrection of the dead. That sentence is like tossing a torch into a storeroom of dry straw. The Pharisees bristle. The Sadducees scoff. Voices rise. Men point. Arguments ignite. You stand there in chains while the leaders of your people start fighting each other over theology like it's a street brawl in fancy robes. Some Pharisees even begin to defend you, saying they find nothing wrong with you, that maybe a spirit spoke to you, or an angel. The Sadducees look like they're swallowing nails. The shouting grows. It gets so heated the commander fears they'll tear you apart right there, in the middle of their argument. So Roman soldiers step in, grab you, and haul you back to the fortress again. It's your new commute, dragged from Jews to Romans, Romans to Jews, like you're a package nobody wants to sign for. That night, in the barracks, the air is cooler. The stone holds the day's heat, but only barely. Somewhere a soldier laughs. Somewhere else a man coughs like he's been doing it for years. You sit, chained, shoulders aching, and in the quiet, you're not alone. The presence comes the way it always has, sudden, steady, not asking permission. You're told to take courage, You've testified in Jerusalem. You will testify in Rome. It's not comfort like a blanket. It's purpose like a weight. The next day, you find out how quickly purpose gets tested. More than 40 men take an oath. No food, no drink, until they've killed you. It's intense. It's dramatic. It's also deranged, because you are not that easy to access right now. They go to the chief priests and elders and propose a plan. Ask the commander to bring you down again, as if for further questioning, and they'll ambush you on the way. It's murder dressed up as administrative procedure, and it might have worked, except for one detail that feels almost ridiculous in the middle of everything. Your nephew hears about it. Somehow, through the whisper network of Jerusalem, your sister's son finds out, and he comes to the fortress. You see him there, young, nervous, eyes wide like he's walked into the mouth of a lion and is trying not to look like prey. You listen as he tells you, voice tight, about the vow, the ambush, the men waiting. Your stomach drops, not from surprise, but from that familiar weariness of being hunted. Again, you call a centurion and ask him to take the boy to the commander. The centurion does, because at this point, you've got enough Roman respect attached to you that people listen, even if they don't understand why. The commander hears the nephew out, dismisses him with a warning to tell no one, and immediately shifts into full Roman logistical mode. And when Rome does logistics, it does not do small. That night, they move you, not with a couple guards and a prayer, with an escort, 200 soldiers, 70 horsemen, 200 spearmen. It's an entire traveling threat. You're given a mount because Rome would rather transport you efficiently than deal with your collapsed body on the road. You ride out of Jerusalem under cover of darkness, chained, surrounded by men whose armor clinks softly with every step. The city recedes behind you, lights dim, voices gone. The road ahead is pale under moonlight, and the countryside smells like crushed plants, damp earth, and distant animals. You can hear the breathing of the horse. You can hear the leather creak. You can hear your own thoughts trying to line up into something useful. By morning, you reach Antipatris, and part of the escort turns back. The horsemen take you on to Caesarea, the Roman administrative hub by the sea. Caesarea feels like Rome wearing a coastal perfume. The air is salty and damp. You smell fish, tar, wet rope, and the faint stink of seaweed rotting in the sun. The city is built with Roman confidence, straight lines, stone walls, official buildings that look like they were designed to intimidate. You're delivered to the governor, Felix, along with a letter from the commander that reads like, "Found this guy in a riot. Turns out he's a citizen. Please deal with it." Felix looks you over. He has the expression of a man who's heard too many complaints and suspects, most of them are nonsense. He asks where you're from. You tell him. He says he'll hear your case when your accusers arrive. So you wait. They keep you under guard in Herod's praetorium, which sounds fancy until you remember you are still a prisoner. Stone corridors, Roman order, the smell of polished armor and sweaty guards sharing too small a space. Your chain scrapes when you move. The metal has a way of becoming part of your skin. Your accusers show up. Ananias, the high priest, arrives with elders and a lawyer named Tertullus, because nothing says spiritual outrage like hiring a professional speaker to talk for you. They stand before Felix and lay it on thick. They flatter the governor first, because everyone flatters power like it's a sacrament. They call you a pest, a troublemaker, a ringleader of a sect. They accuse you of stirring up riots among Jews throughout the empire. They say you tried to profane the temple. You stand there listening, jaw tight, and it's like hearing your life described by someone who hates you and has a talent for drama. Felix gestures for you to speak. You do. You're respectful, because you've learned when respect keeps you alive. You explain you came to bring aid to your people, to present offerings. You say you were purified in the temple. No crowd, no uproar started by you. You say they can't prove what they accuse. You talk about worshipping the God of your ancestors, believing everything in the law and the prophets, and holding to the hope of resurrection. You watch faces as you speak. Some are hard, some are calculating. Some look bored, like they've got lunch plans. Felix knows enough about this way to understand that it's not just a random street cult. He postpones. Of course he does. He says he'll decide when the commander Lysias comes down. He doesn't come. Days turn into more days. You remain in a holding pattern of guarded rooms and slow, stale time. The kind of time that smells like sweat trapped in stone. The kind that makes you notice every scrape of a sandal in the hallway. Felix keeps sending for you, sometimes alone, sometimes with his wife Drusilla, who listens with that sharp, curious stillness of someone peering into a world she doesn't fully trust. You speak about righteousness, self-control, judgment. Felix gets afraid, not repentant, afraid. He sends you away with that classic powerful person move. Go away for now. I'll call for you again when it's convenient. Convenient. You learn to hate that word. He also hopes for a bribe. You can feel that too, the way he lingers, the way he gives you just enough attention to suggest there's a price tag on your freedom. You don't pay it, so you sit. 2 years pass. 2 years of chains and waiting and stale air. 2 years of waking up to the sounds of guards changing shifts, of hearing laughter in the corridors while you count cracks in stone. Your beard grows. Your hair goes more grey. Your body learns the shape of captivity. Felix leaves office. A new governor arrives, Festus. And because nobody wants to start a new job by upsetting the local leadership, Festus immediately inherits you like an awkward piece of furniture left behind by the previous tenant. The chief priests and leaders in Jerusalem press Festus to bring you back there, asking for a favor. Their favor is, predictably, put him on the road so we can kill him. Festus refuses, not because he loves justice, but because he prefers his murder attempts to happen on his schedule. He invites them to come to Caesarea and accuse you there, so they come. They stand around you and hurl many serious charges. None of them stick. Festus, wanting to make them happy, asks you if you're willing to go up to Jerusalem and be tried there. You can practically feel the ambush waiting on that road. You can smell it, like blood before it spills. You say you're standing before Caesar's tribunal where you ought to be tried. You say you've done no wrong, and then you pull the lever Rome installed for citizens like you. You appeal to Caesar. Festus confers with his council. Then he says the words that lock the next chapter into place. You have appealed to Caesar. To Caesar you shall go. And suddenly your future is not a vague waiting room nightmare anymore. It's a direction, not a pleasant one, just clearer. A few days later, King Agrippa and Bernice arrive to greet Festus, and your case becomes dinner entertainment. Festus explains your situation. He admits, with the confusion of a Roman administrator stuck in a religious argument, that the charges are about questions of their own religion and about a dead man named Jesus, whom you claim is alive. Agrippa wants to hear you, so they arrange it. They bring you into the audience hall with a ridiculous amount of ceremony. Agrippa and Bernice enter with pomp, with military tribunes and prominent men of the city. It's all very shiny. You, meanwhile, arrive in chains. You stand there as the room settles, and the contrast is almost insulting. Their clothes are expensive. Their posture is practiced. Their whole vibe is, we are important. Your vibe is, I've been sleeping near walls for years and my wrists have permanent jewelry. Festus speaks, explains you've done nothing deserving death, but you appeal to the emperor, so off you go. Agrippa gestures for you to speak. You do. You tell your story again, because at this point, it's the one thing nobody can take from you. You speak of your youth, your strict life as a Pharisee. You speak of persecuting believers. You speak of the road, the light, the voice, the mission. You speak of saying nothing beyond what the prophets and Moses said would happen, that the Christ would suffer, that he would rise, and that light would be proclaimed to both Jews and Gentiles. Festus interrupts you, loud, abrupt. Paul, you are out of your mind. Your great learning is driving you mad. It's almost funny, in a bleak way. You've survived shipwrecks and beatings and mobs, and now a Roman governor is diagnosing you in public, like he's a physician with feelings. You answer calmly. You say you're not out of your mind. You speak true and rational words. You turn to Agrippa, because Agrippa knows the prophets. Agrippa knows the language of this world. You ask him if he believes. Agrippa's mouth tightens. His eyes flick away for half a heartbeat, like a man stepping back from a line drawn too close to his feet. In a short time, would you persuade me to be a Christian? The room reacts with little shifts and murmurs. You say you would wish, whether in a short time or long, that not only he, but all who hear you might become as you are, except for these chains. You lift your wrist slightly, and the metal catches the light. For a moment, even in that polished hall, the chains are the truest thing in the room. They dismiss you. Agrippa and Festus talk privately. They agree you've done nothing deserving death or imprisonment. Agrippa even says you could have been set free if you hadn't appealed to Caesar. That lands in your chest with a strange mix of satisfaction and regret, because freedom was technically on the table. But the table was surrounded by knives, and the road to Jerusalem had your name on it. So Caesar it is. When they finally move you toward the ship, you walk with chains clinking, a guard close enough to smell. The harbour air is thick with tar and fish, and the sour stench of stagnant water near the docks. Sailors shout, ropes creak, wood groans. Seagulls scream overhead like they're personally offended by everything. You step onto the vessel and feel it shift under your weight. The deck springy and damp. The boards are worn smooth by feet and cargo and years of salt. You look back once, not because you're sentimental, but because your body has learned to catalogue exits. Jerusalem is far behind now. Caesarea stands bright and indifferent on the coast. And you're caught between worlds again. Too Jewish for some, too Roman for others. Too devoted to this living Christ for anyone who wants a quiet life. The guard urges you forward. Chains scrape. The ship creaks. The sea air fills your nose, sharp and cold. Rome is ahead. Not the Rome of postcards and marble dreams. The Rome that swallows people whole and calls it order. The sails catch wind with a loud snap, and the shoreline begins to slide away slowly, like the land itself is letting go of you. The appeal to Caesar brought you to Rome, but the emperor who will hear your case is Nero, and Nero has just discovered a convenient scapegoat for his problems. So you're standing on a ship that smells like wet rope, old fish, and men who haven't washed their feet since childhood. The deck is damp under your sandals, and every plank squeaks like it's filing a complaint. A guard stays close, because you're still Rome's property. The chain between you is short enough that you can taste his breath when he leans in. The sea air hits your face sharp and cold, and for a moment it almost feels clean. Almost, Then a gust comes off the water carrying the aroma of the bilge. That's stale seawater, urine, and whatever fell in there last month and decided to become soup. The sailors shout in quick bursts, all elbows and calluses, hauling rope like they're fighting a giant invisible animal. The sail snaps, the mast groans, the ship lurches, and your stomach tries to climb out through your throat. You find a place to sit that isn't directly in someone's puddle. You fail. Days blur into that special kind of travel misery, where you're always damp, always tired, and always aware that one wrong storm turns you into fish food. You eat when they throw you food, which is mostly hard bread and whatever salted thing used to be alive. The bread is so tough you don't chew it so much as you wear it down over time. Your jaw aches like you've been punished for having teeth. At night, bodies pile together for warmth in whatever corner they can claim. There's snoring, coughing, and the occasional sailor vomiting with the confidence of a man who does this professionally. You stare up into darkness, listening to wood creak and water slap, and you can't stop your mind from cataloguing the ways this ends. Not fear, just inventory. When the storm finally shows up, it doesn't arrive politely. The wind hits like a shove. The sail thrashes, men yell, and the ship starts, moving sideways in a way that feels deeply offensive. Water comes over the edge in cold sheets, and suddenly everyone is scrambling, because the sea has decided it's in charge now. You cling to whatever wood you can grab, knuckles white. The guard clings too, because Rome can chain you to a soldier, but it can't chain the ocean. The rain tastes like iron. The spray stings your eyes. Someone slips and slams into the deck with a sound that makes your stomach tighten. Night comes early under storm clouds. The world shrinks to darkness, shouting and water. After long hours, too many hours, the ship gives up. Wood cracks with a noise like a tree snapping in half. The deck tilts. Cargo shifts and slams. Men scream prayers in 3 languages, and you go down with everyone else into the freezing chaos, grabbing debris, coughing seawater, kicking like your life is not negotiable. Salt burns your throat. Your lungs feel scraped raw. You wash up on land with a mouthful of sand and seaweed, shivering so hard your bones rattle. The beach smells like wet rock and dead fish, and someone nearby is dry heaving like his soul is trying to leave. The locals come out with fire. Fire looks like mercy. Smoke stings your eyes. Your clothes cling to you like cold rags, heavy and sour, and you hold your hands toward the flames while your teeth chatter. The guard stays close, still half your shadow, even now, even while he's shaking too. Someone tosses driftwood on the fire and it pops, sending sparks up into the dark. For a moment, you're just a soaked man warming his hands. And then a snake decides to get involved. It slides out of the wood with the casual entitlement of something that has never once been told no, and it latches onto your hand. Pain flares, sharp and immediate. People jump back. They stare at you like you're already dead, and they're just waiting for your body to get the memo. You shake it off, into the fire. The snake burns. The locals keep staring. Minutes pass. You do not die. Their faces change from, "Oh, he's doomed," to, "Oh, he's something." It's the ancient version of reading a 1-star review and then realizing the hotel is haunted. You warm your hand anyway, because it still hurts, and because you've learned that life continues whether you want it to or not. Eventually, they get you back on the road to Rome by way of another ship, because the empire is nothing if not stubborn. You cross more water, endure more smells, eat more bread that could be used as masonry, and at last you see it. Rome. It rises in the distance like a bruise on the world. Stone and smoke, towers and rooftops, a haze hanging over it that isn't fog. It's cookfires, industry, waste, and the breath of too many people packed into one place. As you approach the harbour, the smell hits you first. Tar, fish, sewage, hot metal, and human bodies stewing in heat. The port is a screaming organism. Sailors shout. Donkeys bray. Merchants wave their arms like they're trying to flag down God. Somewhere nearby, someone is boiling something that smells like onions and regret. The guard pulls you forward through the crush. The chain tugs at your wrist, always reminding you you are not arriving as a guest. Still, people come out to meet you. Believers, faces bright with that dangerous kind of hope. Hands reach for your forearms. Someone calls your name like they've been waiting years to say it out loud without whispering. You smell them up close. Sweat, dust, olive oil, and travel. It's weirdly comforting. They walk with you toward the city, talking too fast, asking questions, laughing in short bursts like they can't believe you're real. Rome looms closer. The road is hard-packed, crowded with carts, soldiers and men, carrying baskets of things you'd rather not identify. As you enter the city, the noise becomes physical. It presses against your ears and chest. Rome is not quiet anywhere, ever. There is always a hammer, a shout, a baby crying, a dog barking, a man arguing with a donkey. The buildings crowd in. Tall apartments, insulae, stacked like bad decisions, windows open to air out the heat and the smell. Laundry hangs across alleys like flags of surrender, and under it all is the scent of the Tiber, mud, rot, and the slow churn of a river forced to swallow an empire's waste. For a time, they keep you under guard in a rented place. It's not freedom, but compared to what you've already tasted, it's almost luxurious. You can sit without being shoved. You can speak without someone putting a boot in your ribs. You can receive visitors. A soldier is always there, of course. The chain stays. The metal rubs your skin raw in the same places day after day, like a little repetitive reminder that Rome owns the room. The guards rotate shifts. Some of them treat you like furniture that talks. Some treat you like a curiosity, asking questions while they chew bread and pick at their teeth. One of them smells like wine at dawn every time, like he's fighting his own war. You talk to anyone who comes. People crowd into the room. Men, women, households, slaves who have to sneak away, freedmen with nervous eyes. They sit on stools, on the floor, on whatever space exists, and you speak to them like you're not chained to a soldier in the capital of the world. You speak until your throat is rough. You speak until the lamp oil burns low. You keep going because you've never been good at shutting up. Time passes. Rome keeps being Rome. And then, one day, the city burns. It starts as a rumor carried on panicked breath. Then it becomes smoke on the wind. Then it becomes a red glow staining the night sky, like the world is bleeding. From your place, you can smell it. Burning wood, burning pitch, burning cloth, burning whatever was inside those packed apartments. The air fills with ash. It drifts down like dirty snow, sticking to sweat on your face. People scream in the streets. Feet pound past. Somewhere, a woman wails a name over and over until it stops sounding like a word. Rome becomes a roaring animal, and you can't calm it. No one can. Days later, the city is scorched and furious, and the emperor needs someone to blame. Nero chooses the believers. It's efficient. They're already strange to the public. They don't worship the gods. They don't burn incense to the emperor. They meet in houses and call each other family. And now people are terrified and homeless and angry. Anger needs a target. Suddenly, the streets are full of whispers that turn into accusations that turn into arrests. Faces you recognize stop showing up. Homes go quiet. People who used to laugh when they greeted you now glance over their shoulders before speaking. You feel the city tighten. It's like being inside a throat that's about to swallow. Your name is known. Too known. You've been the loud one in too many places for too many years. Rome can tolerate a lot, but it doesn't love a man who refuses to disappear. One day the door opens and it's not a visitor. It's soldiers, different from your usual guard. These men have that look, flat eyes, quick hands, no patience. They don't come in with conversation. They come in with an end. The chain changes. It always changes when things get worse. They take you out through Rome's streets, and it's not a parade. People move aside. Some stare, some spit. Some pretend not to see, which is its own kind of cruelty. You pass temples, markets, baths, statues of gods with perfect stone bodies, who never once had to use a latrine. The air is thick with smoke still lingering from the fire, mixed with street stench, old urine, frying oil, and the sweet sour smell of garbage left in heat. You're walked toward a place near the Forum, where the ground itself feels old and crowded with history. And then they bring you to it, the prison. From the outside, it's almost nothing. Just stone. A doorway that doesn't look dramatic enough for what it does to people. No grand columns, no heroic architecture, just a mouth. They shove you inside, down into a space that smells like damp stone and old fear. Your footsteps echo, and every echo feels like it's been there before you. Like the walls remember everyone who's begged in here. A set of stairs takes you lower. The air cools fast. The light dims. The smell thickens. You pass a chamber where men sit in gloom, faces hollow, chained, murmuring to themselves. Their eyes flick up as you pass. Some look away. Some stare like they're trying to decide whether you're real or another hallucination. Your escort doesn't stop. They take you to the hole. That's what it is. A hole in the floor. No door. No ladder that feels reassuring. Just an opening cut into stone, black beneath it. Like the building has a throat and you're about to be swallowed. A guard grabs you under the arms and you're lowered down. Your feet search for purchase and find slick stone. Moist. Cold. Your toes skid slightly and your stomach flips. The darkness wraps around you before you're fully down. It's immediate, like a wet blanket thrown over your head. When your boots hit the bottom, the smell hits harder. It's everything that collects when human beings are kept in a stone pit. Waste, sweat, blood, mold, stale breath, and the sour stink of sickness. There's also a metallic tang, rust from chains and the iron taste of water dripping through stone. You try to inhale shallowly. It doesn't help. The ceiling is low enough that you can't stand straight. You hunch automatically, shoulders curling, neck stiff. The walls are stone blocks slick with damp. If you brush them, your skin comes away wet and cold. Somewhere in the dark, water drips. Slow. Patient. Like time itself. Rats move. You hear them before you see them. Tiny scrapes and quick little steps. Occasionally, you catch the gleam of an eye when a lamp above shifts. They don't fear you. They live here. You're chained again, properly now. Not a symbolic chain, not a house arrest chain. This is iron that bites. The shackle sits on your wrist like a cruel bracelet, rubbing the same spot until your skin becomes tender, then raw, then numb. A guard is down here too, because Rome loves consistency. He sits in the corner where there's slightly less drip, holding the other end of your chain like you're an animal tethered to a post. He smells like sweat soaked into wool, and the faint sourness of cheap wine. When he shifts, his armor creaks softly, a sound that feels too clean for this pit. This is the Mamertine, the Empire's basement. And if you're waiting for your eyes to adjust and reveal some hidden comfort, they won't. There's no hidden bench, no secret clean corner, no, at least it's dry. It is not dry. The floor is damp, gritty, and uneven. When you sit, cold seeps through your robe into your bones. The stone steals warmth like it's hungry. They bring food sometimes. A guard drops it down like you're a dog. Bread, usually. Hard, stale, sometimes with grit in it, because nobody down here gets the courtesy of clean grain. Occasionally, a bowl of thin porridge appears, greyish and lukewarm, smelling faintly of smoke and despair. You eat because you are still alive. Your body has carried you through beatings and storms and hunger. It will not be taken out by spiteful prison cuisine. Days become a cycle of dim light from above, dripping water, and guards changing shifts. You learn the sounds, the scrape of sandals, the clink of keys, the muttered jokes from men who will go back to their beds tonight. Winter creeps in. You feel it first in your joints, a deep ache in elbows and knees. Then in the air itself, colder, sharper. Damp cold is different from dry cold. Dry cold bites. Damp cold sinks in and sets up residence. Your hands shake when you try to grip your bread. Your teeth chatter at night, and you wrap your thin cloak tighter, but it's not enough. The cloth smells like old travel and smoke, and it has been through too much to be warm anymore. You start thinking about a heavier cloak. You start thinking about how ridiculous it is that after everything, storms, mobs, councils, governors, kings, you might spend your last month shivering in a stone pit because you don't have a coat. You ask for it, not to the guards, because they do not care. You ask through the channels that still exist, through visitors and whispered messages and bribes passed hand to hand. Bring my cloak, the one I left behind. Bring it before winter locks its teeth in. Also bring the parchments, because of course you do. Even here, even now, with your wrists rubbed raw and rats treating your feet like furniture, your mind keeps reaching for words. You've spent your whole life pouring your breath into sentences, and you're not done. Visitors come rarely, not because no one loves you, because love has to get past Roman suspicion, fear, and the very real possibility of being dragged away for knowing your name. When someone does make it in, it's never graceful. First, there's the sound. Footsteps above, voices, a guard grunting. Then the faint spill of lamplight through the hole, and a face peering down, squinting against the stink rising up. The visitor's eyes water immediately. Everyone's does. They lower a lamp carefully, and suddenly the pit glows with a miserable little circle of light. The flame flickers, smoke curling upward, and the air fills with the smell of hot oil and soot. In that light, you look at yourself. Your hair is thinner now. Your beard is more grey. Your face is lined with years and pain, and a stubbornness that never learned shame. Your hands are rough, scarred, wrists ringed with bruised skin, where iron has lived too long. The visitor climbs down, or is lowered, and they try not to react to the smell like they've just walked into a slaughterhouse latrine. They fail, but politely. They greet you softly. Maybe it's Luke, faithful as ever, eyes tired but steady. Maybe it's Onesiphorus, who's been hunting for you through Rome's layers like a man trying to find a single coin dropped into an ocean. Whoever it is, their presence feels like a window cracked open in a room full of smoke. They bring what they can. A bit of food that tastes like home. A scrap of clean cloth. News whispered quickly. Who's been taken? Who's hiding? Who's still meeting? Who sends love but can't come? Names rise and fall in the dim light, and some of them hurt. People you thought would stand near you have vanished. Some are afraid, some are gone. Some have decided distance is safer than loyalty. You don't rage about it, not much. You've learned that fear makes cowards out of good men, and sometimes it makes good men out of cowards too. People break, people return, people surprise you. Still, when you hear a name and realize you're not going to see that face again, something inside you tightens. The visitor stays as long as they can. The guard watches, pretending not to listen, failing. The chain between you and the guard makes every conversation feel like it's happening in front of a cashier. Privacy is a myth. Even dying gets an audience. When the visitor leaves, the light goes with them, and the pit returns to shadow. The air feels colder without the little flame. The rats resume their quiet patrols. You sit with your back against wet stone and wait for the next chance. And when the parchments finally arrive, it feels absurdly holy. They come rolled, tied, carried carefully like treasure. And in this place, they are treasure. You hold them like you're holding something alive. There's no desk, no chair, no nice writing setup with a tasteful cup of tea. You balance the parchment on your knee, hunched over, shoulders tight, trying to keep the lamp close enough to see, but far enough away not to set the whole thing on fire. The flame flickers whenever someone above moves, sending shadows crawling across the walls. If Luke is there, he writes while you speak. Your voice is quieter now, not because you've lost fire, but because your throat is dry and the air is bad. Every breath tastes faintly of mold. You pause to cough, and the cough echoes in the stone like a rude interruption. You dictate anyway. You speak to Timothy like he's in the pit with you. Come soon, before winter. Bring the cloak. Bring the books. You talk about loneliness without making it a performance. You talk about men who left. You talk about those who stayed. You talk about how the message keeps moving even when the messenger is chained in a hall. Sometimes the guard shifts and the chain scrapes and the sound threads itself into your sentences. It becomes part of the rhythm, like punctuation made of iron. You write about endurance because you've had to. You write about finishing because you can feel the finish line close. Not in a dramatic way, in the way a man feels weather changing in his bones. The pit teaches you a new kind of stillness. You can't travel. You can't argue in synagogues. You can't get dragged into another riot, which, let's be honest, has been your main hobby for 30 years. Now you have stone, cold, darkness, and time. Time stretches. It's the slowest thing you've ever carried, heavier than chains. In the day, you listen to the city above. Rome never fully quiets. Even down here you hear it. Distant footsteps, muffled shouting, the clatter of carts, a dog barking like it has eternal grievances. At night, the cold deepens. Your body curls in on itself. You pull your cloak tight and feel how thin it is, how useless. Your fingers go numb, and you flex them slowly to keep them from stiffening. Your back aches from hunching. Your neck cramps from looking up toward the hole whenever you hear movement, hoping it's someone you know. Sometimes it's just a guard, a new man, a new smell, a new personality. Some are bored, some are cruel. Some are quietly curious, watching you with that sideways look people get when they're trying to understand why you aren't panicking. One guard asks, after a long silence, why you keep talking about joy. He says it like it's a diagnosis. You glance at him, chained to him in a pit, and the question is almost funny. Almost. You answer him anyway, because that's what you do. You speak of a hope that isn't anchored to comfort. You speak of a kingdom that doesn't need marble or armies. You speak like a man who has already lost enough that fear doesn't have much left to steal. The guard doesn't respond right away. He just sits there breathing, listening to water drip. And you can tell something in him is moving even if he refuses to admit it. The days keep going. Your body weakens in small ways. Not all at once, not dramatically. Just the slow grind of cold and damp and limited food. Your skin cracks at the knuckles. Your joints swell. Your bruises heal slowly. Your spirit, strangely, feels steadier. You've been chased for decades. You've been interrupted, redirected, shoved into boats, shoved out of boats, thrown into cells, pulled out of them, dragged to courts, shouted at by governors. Now the interruptions have stopped. There's only one ending left. When you pray, you don't pray like a man bargaining. You pray like a man reviewing a life with gratitude and scars. You remember roads, faces, names, cities, the way bread tasted in certain houses, the sound of singing in rooms lit by oil lamps. You remember being Saul. You remember the bright certainty of your old life, and you almost laugh at it now, not with mockery, with disbelief. You were so sure, so sharp-edged, so violently convinced. Now you're older, chained, cold, and calm. That calm is not numbness. It's the settled feeling of someone who has been carried through too much to doubt the hands that carried him. The visitors who still come bring news of the persecution. They whisper about people being arrested, about public cruelty turned into entertainment, about believers meeting in smaller groups. Quieter now, moving like shadows through the city. You listen, jaw tight. Not because you're surprised, because you're human. You speak names out loud, slowly, like you're placing them into God's care one by one. Some of them you will never see again. The lamp burns low. The visitor must go because staying too long draws attention, and attention right now is deadly. They climb out, the light lifting away, and you're left again with darkness and drip and rats. Your words, though, remain. The letter grows line by line, sentence by sentence, shaped in a pit that smells like mildew and waste. It feels almost backwards, that the world above is marble and fire and politics, and the thing that will last is being formed down here by lamplight and a man shivering. One night, the cold is especially mean. It crawls under your robe and grips your ribs. Your breath comes out thin. Your teeth chatter, and the sound is loud in the small space. You think about the cloak again, and you almost smile through the discomfort. The great missionary, the storm survivor, the man who spoke before kings, reduced to begging for a coat like a forgotten traveler at the edge of a road. It's humiliating. It's also honest. You do not become less faithful because you are cold. You do not become less devoted because you would enjoy being warm. Your body is still a body, and bodies complain, even holy ones. You shift, trying to find a position that doesn't make your hips scream. The chain clinks. The guard snores softly, head tilted against the wall, mouth slightly open. A rat scurries near his foot, and he doesn't even flinch. Even the rats know he's not worth the effort. You stare up toward the hole, a faint square of darkness within darkness. You think about the road that brought you here, the roads really, thousands of miles, too many blisters, too many beatings, too many strangers' homes and strange meals, and nights spent wondering if you'd wake up. You've woken up anyway. Now you're here, waiting for a morning when footsteps above won't mean a visitor. They'll mean the end. And somehow, that doesn't crush you. It sharpens you. In the days that follow, you keep speaking when you can. You keep dictating when you have strength. You keep giving away courage like you've got an endless supply. even though you're sitting in a stone pit with a chain on your wrist. Sometimes you close your eyes and let the sounds of Rome wash over you from far above. The empire breathing, the city grinding on, the guards changing, the rats moving, the drip of water that never stops. And in that constant, miserable rhythm, you hold on to a quiet certainty that feels almost stubborn. This pit is not the final word. Rome can lock your body underground. It can't lock the message in with you. So you keep talking, even when your voice is hoarse. You keep loving people you might never see again. You keep waiting, not with panic, but with the strange peace of someone who knows exactly how this ends and isn't surprised by it anymore. Above you, Rome keeps burning its lamps and telling itself it will last forever. Down here, by flickering light and damp stone, you form your final address on earth, slowly, carefully, stubbornly, while the water drips and the chain rests heavy on your wrist, and the dark holds you the way the grave will soon try to, and fail. The trial is over, the guard mutters above you, like he's announcing the weather. The verdict is death. You don't get a drum roll. You get sandals scraping stone, keys clinking, and the sound of a man yawning like this is just another shift. The hatch opens. Light drops into the pit in a harsh, vertical slice, and for a moment you blink like an animal dragged out of a burrow. Fresh air follows it, fresh by Roman standards, which means it only smells like smoke, wet streets, and human life. Compared to the Mamertine, it's basically a mountain breeze. A rope ladder slaps down the wall. The guard points at it with the lazy authority of someone who's never been the one climbing out of a hole. Your wrists are stiff. Your shoulders complain. Your knees make a small private argument with God as you grab the rungs. The iron is cold and slick, and your hands are rough enough to handle it. You climb anyway. Halfway up, the stink of the pit clings to you like it's trying to come along for sentimental reasons. At the top, hands grab your arms and haul you out with zero gentleness. Your feet hit the upper chamber and you sway, dizzy from standing fully upright after months hunched like a question mark. The air feels too big. Someone swaps your chain, because Rome cannot resist one last accessory change, and this one is for walking. The metal bites your wrist in the same old place, reopening the same raw line, as if your skin has been keeping score. A soldier looks you over and snorts. You're older now, thinner. Your cloak hangs wrong, like it belongs to someone else. Your hair is more grey than not. Your beard has that prison shape, grown where it wants, uneven, where it rubbed against stone. Still, you meet his eyes. He looks away first, annoyed at himself for it. They march you out. The first thing that hits you is the city noise. Rome doesn't have silence. Rome has volume. Carts rattling, merchants shouting, hammers striking, dogs barking like they're paid per complaint. People talking over each other in that aggressive, crowded way that says, "My life is important, and so is my goat." The second thing that hits you is the smell. Smoke still lingers from the fire, stale and greasy, like a cooking pot that never gets washed. Add street sewage, hot oil from food stalls, and the sour tang of 1,000 bodies sweating through wool. Your stomach tightens, not from fear, from the reality of being near food again. A woman carrying a basket of onions pauses and stares at you. Her eyes flick down to your chain, then up to your face. She presses her lips together like she's trying not to form an opinion. A boy points. His mother smacks his hand and yanks him away. Not sympathy, not anger, just that instinct people have when they see someone marked for death and don't want the bad luck to rub off. The soldiers keep you moving. They don't rush. They don't need to. The empire is never in a hurry when it's killing someone legally. This is scheduled. This is orderly. This is the bureaucratic side of cruelty. You pass walls soot-stained black. You pass temples where incense burns and the gods look clean and calm in marble, as if nobody ever sweats in their presence. You pass a fountain where water spills clear and bright into a basin, and you catch yourself staring at it like it's a miracle. A guard notices. He smirks and nudges you forward. No water for you, not now. Your feet shuffle over stone. The sandals you have aren't meant for comfort, and your toes feel every irregularity in the road. The chain between you and the soldier tugs with every step, a constant little reminder that your body is on loan. People move around you like water around a rock. Some glance at you and keep going. Some pause, curious. A few look almost pleased, the way people look when they find out someone else's life is worse than theirs. Near an intersection, you see someone you recognize. A face in the crowd, half hidden behind a cart loaded with clay jars. Their eyes meet yours for half a heartbeat. You feel it in your chest. Relief, tenderness, grief, all at once. They don't wave. They can't. They just press a hand to their mouth, then to their chest, like they're holding something in. A prayer, maybe. A sob. Then the cart shifts, and they're gone. Your mouth goes dry. Not from the walk. From the fact that you will not get to say goodbye properly. Not to everyone. Not to most. Rome doesn't do sentimental farewells. Rome does procedures. The road tilts toward the edge of the city. You can feel it when the buildings start to thin and the streets widen. The noise changes. Less echo. More wind. The air is still dirty, but it moves. And moving air feels like mercy. You approach the gate. The city wall rises ahead, thick stone with guards above, and you pass beneath it into a shadow that smells like old piss and horses. Just outside, the world opens into roads and fields, and the long, practical sprawl of an empire that always needs somewhere to dump its unpleasant tasks. Executions don't happen inside Rome. Inside Rome, they build statues. Outside Rome, they solve problems. They turn you onto the Ostian Way. It's a major road, wide enough for carts, worn smooth in places by years of boots and wheels. Dust coats everything. It clings to your ankles, sticks to the sweat along your spine, settles into the wrinkles of your robe. The sun is up, not warm exactly, but bright. You squint against it. Your eyes have lived in darkness for too long. This light feels rude. The guards fall into a rhythm. Step, chain tug, step, chain clink. Their armor creaks in small bored noises. One of them spits to the side with the casual confidence of a man who believes the earth exists to receive his spit. You walk. Your legs know how to walk. They've carried you over mountains, across cities, through riots, out of prisons onto ships, off ships into synagogues, out of synagogues. Walking has been your whole life. Now it's the last commute. You pass travelers heading toward the city. A farmer with a donkey, 2 women balancing baskets, a thin man pushing a cart with a wheel that squeals like it's being tortured. They all notice the soldiers. They all notice your chain. They all do that little recalculation people do when they realize a public death is nearby. Some step aside quickly. Some slow down, curious. No one interferes. Interfering with Rome is a hobby for people who want to stop having a life. The land to either side is scrub and fields, dotted with tombs. That's one of Rome's favorite decorating choices. Graves along the road, so everyone walking in and out of the city gets a friendly reminder that death is part of the infrastructure. Stone markers, little family mausoleums. names carved with care. You catch a whiff of something sweet and rotten. A ditch nearby holds stagnant water, greenish at the edges. Flies hover over it like they own shares in it. The smell is mud, decay, and whatever someone dumped there yesterday. One guard covers his nose with his hand for half a second. Then he remembers he's trying to look tough and drops it. You keep walking. No dramatic speeches, no crowd chanting. Just the steady sound of your sandals and the clink of iron, moving away from the city that wants you gone. After a while, the guards angle you off the main road. The path narrows. Trees appear, tall, dark, and close enough together that their shade feels heavy. The air is cooler here, damp in pockets. The ground is softer underfoot, and you can smell wet leaves and earth. It's almost peaceful, which is, frankly, offensive. This is where they do it. Acque Salviae. The place has water nearby, springs a little flow, enough that the ground stays moist, and the air carries that mineral smell. It's not the clean scent of a river. It's the sharp, cold scent of water coming out of the earth, edged with moss. Your throat tightens again, watching it. Not because you expect a miracle escape, because you're thirsty and you're still human. They stop you. A small clearing, a patch of open space where the light filters through leaves in broken pieces. The soil here is trampled. You can tell this ground has been used for this job before. There's a faint, old iron smell in the air, the kind you notice around slaughterhouses and battlefields. Blood remembers places. A few men are waiting. Not a cheering mob, just officials, an executioner, more soldiers, faces that have the blankness of men doing work they've done many times. One of them holds a cloth, a blindfold. It's cleanish by Roman standards, which means it was probably rinsed and then confidently declared fine. Your hands are still bound, and your shoulders ache from the position. A guard steps behind you and adjusts the ropes like he's fixing a strap on a pack animal. You hear him mutter, "Citizen." He says it like a classification on a form. That one word is the reason you're not being nailed up somewhere for birds to work on. Rome has rules, and sometimes the rules are the only mercy you get. You look around taking it in. Trees, dirt, soldiers. A man with a sword that has been sharpened until it looks too thin to be real. The blade catches the light in a quick, bright line, and your mind does what minds do in moments like this. It counts details. The hilt is worn. The man's hands are thick. His nails are dirty. His stance is practiced. Feet set like he's about to split wood. You can hear water not far away. You can hear leaves moving. You can hear your own breath. A guard steps close, face tight with impatience, and asks if you have final words. It's not kindness. It's procedure. Rome likes to appear fair even while it's ending you. Your mouth is dry. Your lips feel cracked. Still, you speak, and your voice surprises you by coming out steady. Not loud, not theatrical, just steady, the way it's been in synagogues and marketplaces and prison cells. You bless. You pray. You don't pray like a man bargaining for one more day. You pray like a man finishing a sentence he's been speaking his whole life. One soldier shifts uncomfortably. Another rolls his eyes, but not as dramatically as he wants to. Even hardened men get weird around prayer. It reminds them they're not the top of the food chain. The executioner waits, expression flat, sword angled down like a tool. When you stop speaking, there's a small silence. It lands on the clearing like dust. A guard lifts the blindfold. You feel the cloth touch your forehead, rough and slightly damp. It smells faintly of old sweat and cheap oil, like it's been stored in a pouch next to someone's lunch. The knot tightens behind your head, and the world goes dark. Your other senses sharpen immediately, because of course they do. You smell earth, leaves, metal, the sour breath of the soldier beside you. You hear the little clicks of armor. You hear a bird call, bright and stupidly cheerful. Someone grips your elbow and guides you forward. Your feet shuffle. You're brought down to your knees, and the ground is cold and slightly wet through your robe. Dirt presses into the fabric. A small stone bites your kneecap, sharp enough to register. They position you, not cruelly, not gently, efficiently. They have done this 1,000 times, and they'll do it 1,000 more, and you are one more body moving through a system. A guard pushes your shoulders forward. Your neck bends. Your forehead lowers toward the ground. This is the part where your body has opinions. Your muscles tense. Your stomach flips. Your heartbeat thumps hard enough that you feel it in your throat. Every instinct you have screams, stand up, run, bite someone, do anything. You stay, not because you're numb, because you've already made peace with where this road ends. A soldier steps back. You hear the shift in the air as the executioner moves into place. Boots on dirt. A faint scrape as the man adjusts his grip. The sword makes a soft sound, just a whisper of metal moving. Your mouth tastes like dust. You think briefly of all the roads you've walked, the way cities smelled at dawn, the way bread tasted in a friend's house when you were hungry, the rough laughter around a table, the sound of singing in a room where everyone knew it could be their last night. Your chest rises, falls. A leaf drops somewhere nearby, and you hear it land. The sword comes down. There is no long struggle, no drawn-out cruelty, no crowd roaring for entertainment. One clean stroke, because Rome is very proud of its efficiency when it's killing its own citizens. Pain flashes white and immediate, then nothing. No more cold, no more chain, no more damp stone, no more rats. The body that has been beaten and shipwrecked and starved and dragged across continents is suddenly not yours to carry. The clearing stays, the soldiers stay. The water keeps flowing like it doesn't care about empires or apostles or any of it. The executioner wipes the blade on cloth with the bored precision of a butcher cleaning a knife. He checks the edge, because he has standards apparently. Then he slides it back into its sheath. A guard gives an order, and 2 soldiers move in. There's a business-like rustle, hands lifting, fabric shifting, the sound of a body being handled the way a body becomes a thing once the life is gone. They wrap you in a simple cloth. Nothing fancy. Rome doesn't spend extra on your exit. They load the body onto a small cart. Wood creaks, wheels settle. One soldier makes a joke under his breath, something about the day being easier now. Another chuckles. It lands wrong in the air, even for them. They start back toward the road. The cart rattles over uneven ground, and the sound blends with the water and the leaves and the distant noise of travelers. If you weren't looking right at it, it could almost be any cart carrying any cargo. That's the insult of it. After 30 years of constant motion, you're now cargo. They bring you toward the outskirts of the city, to a place where bodies go when the state is finished with them. A dumping ground, a potter's field, a grave space reserved for the unwanted. Rome has categories for everything, including where you're allowed to rot. But you don't rot there, not because Rome has sudden compassion, because you are not alone. A few believers have followed at a distance, far enough not to be obvious. They're careful, faces shadowed under hoods, moving like people who know the streets can turn on them in a heartbeat. They wait until the soldiers are distracted. A shift change, a moment of boredom. a conversation that pulls attention away. It's always the same with guards. Give them something mundane and they forget they're holding the world together. A man steps forward and slips something into a soldier's hand. Coins. Not enough to feel rich, just enough to feel worth it. The soldier looks at the coins, looks at the believer, and does that quick little calculation Rome teaches everyone. How much trouble could this bring me? How much do I care? He shrugs, barely lifting his shoulders. He turns his head away. That's permission. In the only language Rome truly respects, they take you, not dramatically, not with trumpets. Quiet hands, shaking fingers. A cloth pulled tighter around you, not for dignity in the eyes of the empire, but for love in the eyes of your people. They lift the body from the cart and carry it with grunts and strained breath, because bodies are heavy and grief doesn't make muscles stronger. Someone whispers your name. It comes out broken. They hurry because the air feels full of eyes even when the street looks empty. Every footstep sounds too loud. Every passing stranger feels like a threat. They move along the Ostian Way, away from the center, toward places where believers already know how to hide, toward burial grounds tucked into the edges of the world, toward quiet. The road is dusty, and the dust sticks to their tears. They pass tombs again, those carved stone names of families with money and space and legal protection. The contrast is almost funny in the darkest way. Somewhere, a nobleman has an entire building for his bones. You get a borrowed corner of earth, fought for with bribes and courage. They bring you to a burial place used by the community, small, hidden, humble. The entrance is low and unwelcoming because secrecy has become part of the architecture. Inside, it smells like damp limestone and old oil from lamps. The air is still. The walls hold niches, little resting places, some already sealed, some waiting. A lamp flickers, throwing nervous shadows. They lay you down. Cloth rustles. Hands linger, reluctant to let go. Like letting go makes it real. Someone smooths the fabric at your shoulder. A tiny gesture of care that feels wildly intimate after a life of public hardship. Another person touches your forehead through the cloth. A final blessing spoken softly. Not loud, not polished. Just love in a whisper. They don't have time for long mourning. That's the cruelty of this season in Rome. Grief has to be scheduled between dangers. Tears have to be swallowed quickly. Goodbyes have to be short, because a long goodbye attracts attention. They place you into the niche. Stone is fitted over the opening. Mortar is pressed into place. Fingers smear it smooth, working fast, like they're sealing you in and sealing themselves out of trouble. Someone scratches a simple mark, a name, a symbol, something small enough to be missed by anyone who doesn't know what they're looking for. The lamp smoke curls toward the ceiling. Their faces are drawn, eyes red, mouths tight with the effort of staying silent. One woman presses her fist against her lips and trembles, shoulders shaking without sound. A man puts his arm around her and holds her steady. No sermons, no speeches, just the thick, unbearable reality that the man who never stopped moving has finally stopped. They leave the burial place as quietly as they entered. The lamp is lowered. The passage goes dark again, holding its secret. Outside, the world keeps going. Carts still rattle. People still argue over prices. Bread still bakes and burns. The Tiber still carries filth past marble buildings. Nero still lives in his palace, convinced the world is his stage. And yet, somewhere under the ground, in a sealed little space that smells of stone and oil and the lingering warmth of human hands, you rest. The chain is gone. The guards are gone. The road is gone. After decades of motion, after storms and mobs and courts and ships and prisons, the silence arrives, not as punishment, as completion. The empire moves on to its next task. It always does. But your people walk back into the city with their heads down and their hearts on fire, carrying something heavier than grief and somehow lighter than fear. Because Rome can take a body. Rome can't take what you planted in living rooms, whispered in alleys, and dictated by lamplight in a pit. The sword fell in seconds. The quiet that followed will last longer than anyone in that clearing can possibly understand. You close the scroll in your mind, and the silence is loud. After all of that, the beatings, the shipwrecks, the chains, the sword, what actually sticks to you? Because if you just stack the events up like cargo on a cart, it sounds like the worst travel itinerary ever sold. See the Mediterranean, experience local cuisine, get publicly hated in 5 exciting provinces, collect lash marks like souvenirs. No one signs up for this, and yet you just walked it anyway, all the way to that damp patch of dirt outside Rome, where the empire did what it always does. What you're left with isn't a tragedy that fizzles out. It's an ending that clicks into place. It starts back with Saul, before the name change, before the road, before any of the letters that people would copy until their fingers cramped. Young Saul is the kind of person who wakes up already angry, already sure, already mentally drafting a strongly worded complaint to God about everyone else's theology. You can feel that certainty on him like stiff fabric. It doesn't bend, and it's not cartoon villain certainty either. It's the terrifying kind that feels clean, the kind that says, I'm doing the right thing, while holding coats beside a dying man. The kind that makes you useful to people with power, because you don't hesitate. Here's what hits you first. Certainty feels clean. It makes you fast. It makes you sure. And if you're not careful, it turns you into the kind of person who can hurt someone and still call it devotion. Then Damascus happens, and it is not gentle. It's not a thoughtful rebrand. It's not a quiet moment with a journal and a sunrise. It's being slammed into the dirt by a light that doesn't care about your dignity, then being dragged into the city blind like a man who suddenly forgot how legs work. You go from hunter to helpless in a single afternoon, and it stays ugly on purpose. 3 days of darkness, no food, no control, no ability to fix it with clever words or religious credentials. Just you and the sound of your own breathing while everything you trusted collapses. And then you're stuck with this uncomfortable fact. Change is possible, even when everyone has already written you off. Not small improvement possible, not I'll try harder possible. The kind of change that makes your old friends uneasy and your new friends suspicious. Because let's be honest, if you were one of those believers in Damascus, you'd hear Saul wanted to meet, and you'd immediately start checking windows and counting exits. Oh, the famous persecutor wants to talk. Love that. Sounds safe. But the story insists anyway. The same man who breathed threats can end up breathing prayers. The same mouth that approved of death can end up speaking life. You don't get trapped as your worst self forever. Then come the missionary years, and they are not romantic. People like to picture missionary journeys as inspiring map lines and meaningful conversations. What you got was blisters, stomach bugs, suspicious water, hostile crowds, and hospitality that ranges from sweet family with bread to someone's spare corner next to the animal feed. You walked until your feet were basically leather scraps. You slept on floors that moved with bugs. You got beaten like a criminal for talking about mercy. And you keep going. And the cost is not cute. Conviction costs in the most physical way possible. Your back remembers it in winter. Your body flinches before your mind does. You can describe rod strikes years later because your skin never really forgets. Those details aren't here so you can admire pain. They're here so you feel it in your own body. This life wasn't powered by comfort. It was powered by something deeper than mood, deeper than applause, deeper than safety. You weren't chasing a vibe. You were chasing obedience, even when obedience smelled like bilge water and bruises. And that keeps rolling right into Jerusalem, the place you go because you still love your people, even when they don't know what to do with you. You walk into the temple trying to show respect, and it turns into a riot anyway, because once you've been labeled dangerous, people don't exactly schedule a calm meeting to revisit that label. You get dragged, shouted over, misrepresented, nearly killed, then rescued by Rome in the way Rome rescues anyone, by putting iron on you and calling it order. You end up caught between worlds, too Jewish for one side, too Roman for the other, and too committed to Jesus for everybody. That part carries another hard comfort. Sometimes you do the right thing, and it still goes badly. You can be trying to make peace and end up in chains. You can be faithful and still be misunderstood. Your intentions don't always protect you from outcomes, but the story refuses to leave you there, stranded in that bitterness, because then you hit the dungeon, the hole, the Mamertine, the place that smells like damp stone, old human waste, and the kind of despair that has been fermenting for generations. You're cold. You're alone. Winter creeps in. Your body aches. Most people don't visit. A few do, and each visit costs them something. And still, this is the part that's almost absurd. You write. Not because the cell is inspiring, not because the guards are supportive, but because purpose doesn't require comfort to function. And somehow, peace shows up in the grossest places, not as a dreamy mood, but as a settled decision you can feel in your ribs. You don't see peace because the empire got nicer. You see peace because your life finally lines up into a single direction. You're not chasing status anymore. You're not trying to win. You're finishing. That's why the execution doesn't feel like Rome winning, even though Rome gets the sword and the paperwork and the smug little sense of closure. It feels like completion. The body stops, yes. The noise stops. The road ends. But the work doesn't. This is why those early believers carried the story forward like contraband. Not because they wanted a heroic death scene to impress strangers. They kept it because it gave them a template when their own lives got small and scary. They remembered it the simple way, because they had to. Certainty can make you cruel. Your worst chapter doesn't have to be your last. Chains don't stop a message. And if you're being held, you can keep walking even when you're not tough. And there's a quieter comfort tucked under all of it. You don't have to be large to be faithful. Paul's final months weren't stage-lit. They were lamp-lit. They weren't public. They were cramped, cold, and humiliating. Still, those were the months that gave the church some of its strongest words. So no, his death wasn't a tragedy in the way Rome intended it to be. It was the last line of a life already offered up piece by piece. He got to the end of his road, and somehow, after everything, he didn't let go. Not as a slogan, but as a lived fact, hammered out through years of dust, blood, bad meals, and worse prisons. Rome got its moment in the clearing. Paul got something stranger, a legacy that kept walking after his sandals stopped. And when you hold the whole journey in your hands, Saul's hard certainty, the blinding road, the long bruised decades, the cold dungeon letters, the efficient sword, you're left with a kind of settled ending. Not neat, not painless, complete. The sword fell. The body was buried. And then something strange happened, because you expect the world to snap back into place after an execution. You expect the machinery of empire to clank forward, satisfied, like a cart that finally rolled over the rock in its way. But you don't get that neat little click. You get quiet people moving through Rome like they're carrying a secret under their tongues. You get whispers traded in doorways. You get a few believers standing too long near a grave, staring at packed earth like it's a locked door they'll see open again. And you get letters, not marble statues, not triumphal arches, not a shiny monument with eagles on top. Letters. You can almost see the first one in someone's hands, folded and worn already, edges soft from being opened too many times. The ink is dark, uneven in places, like the pen hesitated. The parchment smells like animal, because it is animal, and someone paid good money for it. A lamp spits and pops in the corner, coughing smoke into the room. The reader clears their throat, and everyone leans in because there's no microphone. There's just a voice in a crowded space, pushing words into the air. Outside, Rome is still Rome. The streets are still full of shouting. The drains still burp up heat and stink. Somewhere a man is selling fish that absolutely did not die today, and he is lying with confidence. But inside this room, the noise gets held back by mud, brick, and breath. These people are listening like it matters. You feel it in the way nobody fidgets, in the way a child stops squirming because even the child can tell. This is one of those moments you don't interrupt unless you want your mother's hand to appear from nowhere. The letter moves from hand to hand after, careful like it's fragile. Someone traces a line with their finger, not because they can't read, but because they can't believe it's real. Like touching it proves the man existed. And the absurd part is that Rome can't confiscate what it can't catch. A letter is light, a letter folds, a letter disappears under a cloak, a letter rides in a bread basket, a letter gets tucked into a bundle of laundry that smells like sweat and olive oil and resignation. A soldier can stop a cart and poke at sacks with a spear, bored and mean. A soldier can't spear every piece of paper in the world. So the letters move. You watch one leave the city in the hands of someone who looks like a normal traveler, the kind you'd ignore in the street. Their sandals are worn. Their tunic has been patched twice. They don't look dangerous, but their bag carries a voice that won't die. The road out is dusty and loud with wagons. Hooves strike stone. Donkeys complain like it's their full-time job. The traveller keeps their face neutral because neutral faces survive checkpoints. A guard glances at them, shrugs, and waves them through. And just like that, the words are gone from Rome, not erased, exported. Years slide by in a way that doesn't feel like a montage. It feels like life, the slow grind of days, the cheap meals, the fevers, the arguments, the weddings, the funerals, and always the letters. You see them in Ephesus, where the air tastes like salt and commerce. You see them in Corinth, where the streets are busy and nobody minds their business. You see them in Philippi, where the cold bites and people pull their cloaks tight and still show up to listen. Each place is the same and different. Same in the way every crowded room smells like human bodies packed too close. Stale breath, old wool, oil lamps, bread that's more survival than cuisine. Different in the accents, the food, the way the local dogs look at you like you're either dinner or a problem. And the letters keep getting copied. You don't get a printing press. You get a guy named something like Rufus who can write neatly and hates it. He sits there with his shoulders hunched, dipping his pen, scratching ink, across parchment while his wrist cramps. He licks his thumb to separate pages, and you try not to think about how often that thumb goes directly into communal food bowls. His lamp makes the room hot and smoky. A bug dies in the oil with a tiny hiss, and he doesn't even look up. He writes anyway, because one copy isn't enough. One copy can burn. One copy can get soaked in rain or dropped in the sea, or stolen by someone who needs parchment for a shopping list. So you get more copies. The words become the kind of thing people hide in walls. The kind of thing someone risks a beating to deliver. The kind of thing a widow keeps wrapped in cloth, tucked under her sleeping mat, like a treasure that can't be taxed. Rome doesn't notice at first. Rome is busy doing Rome things, conquering, taxing, arguing, building, collapsing, rebuilding, congratulating itself, and throwing parties that smell like wine, sweat, and poor decisions. Rome has emperors who declare themselves divine while scratching at rashes. Rome has generals who swagger while their teeth rot. Rome has marble and banners and laws carved into stone. And in the middle of that, the letters are a ridiculous little threat. Words on skin, ink on animal. So time keeps moving, and you can feel the empire's weight starting to shift, like a huge animal turning in its sleep. At first, it's subtle. A street that used to be swept isn't swept anymore. A patch of road buckles and nobody fixes it. A building that should be repaired gets propped up with cheap timber, and everyone pretends that's fine. The people still act like Rome is forever, but forever starts to look tired. Decades roll into centuries. The banners change. The faces on coins change. The uniforms change. The stink doesn't. And the letters are still there, passing through hands that will never touch a palace. It's still strange. Empires spend fortunes to be remembered, and a prisoner with a bad back becomes unforgettable. Somewhere along the way, the Mamertine prison stops being just a hole. Not because it gets cleaner. Let's not get carried away. But because people start showing up to look at it like it matters. At first, it's nervous. Quiet. A couple of believers at a time, coming down those steps, trying not to draw attention. Their sandals scrape the stone. Their little lamps throw shaky light, and the damp air crawls over their skin. They stand where the chain ring is. They touch the wall. The wall is cold, wet, and unimpressed. Stone has seen everything. Stone doesn't get sentimental. Still, the people are. They whisper names like they're calling someone back. Paul, Peter, the saints, the martyrs, the dead who aren't dead in the way Rome thinks. They go back up into daylight blinking hard, and the street outside is loud and rude and full of merchants who don't care about any of it. But the prison stays in their minds. Years pass. Nothing improves quickly. Then one day you're standing there again, and it's not a secret visit anymore. It's a place people go on purpose. There are candles now. Someone has painted something on the wall. There's a little altar, because humans love putting furniture in places where furniture doesn't belong. And somehow, this pit becomes a church. You step into it, and the air still hits you like a damp cloth. Stone sweat, old minerals, cold that feels personal. But now, there's incense layered over it, like someone tried to cover a latrine with perfume. It helps a little, not much. Above, the city changes its clothes over and over. New buildings climb up. Old ones fall down. Streets get rerouted. Names shift. Power shifts. The empire that once dragged people to death starts losing its grip. It doesn't vanish in a dramatic explosion. It frays. It gets too big, too tired, too stretched thin. It starts dropping things it used to hold. Provinces peel away like old paint. Armies stop being loyal. Coins get debased until they feel like jokes in your hand. The marble still stands, but nobody is as impressed anymore. And all the while, the letters keep traveling. They cross seas. They cross languages. They get read in rooms that smell like smoke and cabbage and wet wool. They get argued over by people who can't agree on anything, except that these words keep showing up. You see them in the hands of a man in a cold monastery, hunched over a desk while winter presses at the cracks in the stone. His fingers are ink-stained and chapped. The room smells like tallow, damp robes, and old bread. Outside, the wind is a threat. Inside, he copies the words again, line by line, because his whole life is basically spiritual paperwork. His stomach growls. He writes anyway. The world keeps piling up layers. Spires rise, kingdoms form, kingdoms fall. People draw borders and then bleed over them. Plagues come through like an invisible army, and everyone suddenly learns how thin life is. And in the middle of that, you find the same phrases again, the same stubborn hope, the same insistence that grace is real, that transformation is possible, that suffering isn't the final word. The letters keep outliving the people who read them. They outlive the people who copy them. They outlive the people who try to destroy them. Eventually, you hit the era where words stop being only handmade. Somebody figures out how to stamp ink onto page after page after page, faster than a monk could blink. The world fills up with paper like snowdrifts. And now the letters aren't just passed carefully between houses. They're stacked, shelved, sold, translated, bound into books that sit on tables like they own the place, which is almost offensive when you remember where they came from, because you can still go to Rome. You can still walk the streets where carts rattle and people talk too loud. You can still smell exhaust now, mixed with espresso, perfume, and the eternal mystery scent of crowd. You can still stand near old stones and feel how time has chewed them down. And you can still go to that prison. Only now you line up behind tourists. It's a very specific kind of humbling, standing in a place of ancient suffering while someone behind you complains about the Wi-Fi. You descend the steps with a crowd that smells like sunscreen and city heat. Someone's wearing a bright shirt that would have gotten them stared at in any ancient market. Someone else is chewing gum with the confidence of a person who has never had to ration bread. A guide talks and the sound echoes off stone. The walls are still there, sweating quietly. The air is still cold enough to make your skin tighten. The ceiling is still low like it wants you to bow, whether you're reverent or not. There's a little plaque. There's a rope barrier. There's a soft glow from electric lights now, because we are modern and we fear darkness. And yes, people take photos. A person lifts their phone and smiles. In the same space where a man once shivered, chained, asking for a cloak. It's not evil. It's just human. Humans take pictures when they don't know what else to do with history. You stand there and you can almost hear it layered together. The drip of water, the scrape of chain, the murmur of prayer, the bored cough of a guard, the click of a phone taking a picture. Time stacked like sediment. Above you, Rome is full of ruins that used to be threats. There's the Forum, broken and beautiful in the way dead power always is. There are arches that once bragged about victories nobody remembers clearly anymore. There are columns that reach up like they're still trying to impress Jupiter, and Jupiter isn't returning their calls. The empire is still studied, still visited, still talked about like a legend. But it isn't running the world. It can't arrest anyone now. It can't chain anyone now. It can't swing a sword now. Its language is carved into buildings and mottos, like a ghost that keeps turning up in the architecture. But the heartbeat is gone, and the letters are not gone. They sit in hotel drawers. They sit on shelves in houses. They sit in tiny churches and giant cathedrals. They get read beside hospital beds, They get read at funerals. They get read by people who can't sleep, and people who can't stop crying, and people who are so tired they can barely hold their heads up. They get read in every kind of voice, whispered, shouted, sung, mispronounced by children, stumbled through by someone learning to read, and all of that started with a lamplight in a hole. You remember the dungeon again, the real one, not the tourist-friendly version. The smell of damp stone and old waste, the ache in your joints from cold that never backs off, the way the darkness felt thick, like something you could touch. You remember how little Rome had to do to win that day. A signature, a guard, a sword, efficient. But you also remember the other kind of efficiency, the quiet, stubborn work of writing when your hands were cramped and your future was sealed. The kind of work that doesn't look impressive in the moment. It looks small. It looks like a man asking for his cloak because winter hurts. It looks like ink drying on parchment while water drips somewhere in the dark. It looks like an ordinary lamp fighting an extraordinary amount of night. Now, you're standing in the long after. You're watching tourists filter out, their footsteps echoing, their voices fading up the stairs. Someone drops a coin into a box and it clinks once, lonely. The room settles. The stone keeps sweating, and you can feel the strange weight of it. Rome, with all its legions and laws and marble pride, tried to shut one man up. It didn't work. Not because he was loud. Not because he was powerful in the way empires understand power. Because words outlive swords when they're carrying something real. You step back into daylight. The city noise hits you again. Cars, voices, footsteps, distant sirens. Life rushing by like it always does, impatient and unaware. You look down at your own hands, and it's almost funny how empty they are. No parchment, no ink stains, no chain marks. Still, the voice reaches you. Not in the way a ghost haunts a hallway. In the way a message keeps finding new mouths, new rooms, new tired hearts that need steadying. The man is long buried. The empire is long fallen. But the words keep walking. They cross centuries like they're crossing a street, unbothered. And somewhere, in the quiet places where people still open those pages, the work continues, soft, persistent, impossible to fully silence, like lamplight that refuses to go out, even when the room is cold, even when the stones are wet, even when the night is long, and the world keeps changing its name around it, and still the voice remains, still traveling, still speaking, still alive in the dark, still moving forward.